Space, the final frontier. This is a review show for Star Trek The Next Generation. Its continuing mission to explore interesting plot points, to seek out goofs and continuity errors, to boldly go where no other TNG review show has gone before. It's Wednesday. It's 8 o'clock. It's the TNG review show. Hey, good evening, everyone. It's the Vault back with the TNG review show. My name is Montalban, and I am joining you with my co-hosts, Massimo Bob, Chief Sean.
Evening.
And Lieutenant Commander Tavikins. Good evening to you. I hope you're all well this week. We have got a double part coming this evening with Times Arrow Part 1 and 2. So we're going to get pretty much straight into it with a quick hello to the co-hosts. Hiya, Maz. How's your week been this week?
Yeah, it's been a good week. I've been off, so it's been nice. Lots of going to the gym and the cinema and things like that. And Montalban, as you're like admin, don't forget to post the link in chat because I believe it's open mic tonight as well.
Ooh.
If anybody would like to join us.
I will have to post that in chat, as you say. For anybody that wants to join us.
Meanwhile, who do we go to next? How is Sean? How's Sean's week been?
Yeah, grand. I just had my brothers and my twin brothers in one from Luxembourg, one from Dublin. One of them had my niece with them. It's confusing of twin brothers, but obviously only one has the kid. But genetically, they might as well both be his father. Both be her father. But yeah. Anyway, busy couple of days. You know, you think you've got loads of space until you have relevant relatives come visit, and all of a sudden you don't have that much space anymore.
No.
So yeah, glad for nice to see them go.
Yeah. Tommy Kids, how's
Hello.
the greenhouse?
Doing good. It almost knocked me on my ass today. It got really windy and I hadn't buried down all the corners yet. So while the wind was blowing and liner was flapping, I've got a shovel and stomping and shoveling before it gets blown out of the earth. But I got all the strawberries in. The corn is starting to give the little corn cobs on the top. I've got a squash plant that's really frisky, and bok choy. I've got a lot of veggies in there. They're coming to fruition, and I don't want to eat them because they're so nice.
No. Don't want to eat
Wait till
them.
you hear about the rabbits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about the rabbits, George.
Don't start naming your vegetables. That's no.
Yeah.
Tommy tomato. I can't do it.
I'm the opposite of a vegan. I can't bring myself to eat the plants. I'll eat the meat.
I'll eat the lambs. Yeah. Good evening to everyone in live chat world. We've got Stu Plum. Good evening to you, Sir Andrew. I hope you're well this week. Ruth, who I think is joining us in the studio, and Mr. Tubbikins, the beard, is with us this evening. I hope you're well wherever you are in Europe. Is he at home, or is he traveling through Scandinavia somewhere?
He's on the road again.
On the road again. Let's bring Ruth in. Hiya, Ruth.
Hello.
Bryce.
It's Bryce.
Hello.
Oh, you've got a different background.
Yeah, a few different things going on.
Oh, I got a few different things going on there. Very cool. Before I start on the episode, I will say, just in case Wookiee's in the background there somewhere, last week he asked if I'd seen Strange New Worlds episode 1 season 2, and I have seen it now, and it's not great. I'll report back that it's
Yeah,
it's not
the
great.
Klingons are better, but they're a bit rubbery. It's all right. They have 9 other episodes to get started, and the Lower Decks crossover is coming, and I cannot wait for that. They look immense.
Yes.
I think it's going to be good. I think it'll be good.
I'm hoping that first episode's just a bit of a blip. It seemed a bit
I
more
think-
Discovery-like than season 1.
Yeah.
And I was just
Although they deliberately blew up the Discovery ship. Like, as this to send a message going, it's okay, we're getting rid of this, it's fine. No more of this crossfield.
Yeah, I don't know. The jury's out, but hopefully
Yeah,
the
well-
crossover will be good with Lower Decks.
That I'm looking forward to. The uniforms in particular, the live action version, just look amazing. So,
Yeah.
hoping to see more of them.
Cool. Right. So, this evening we are consigning to the vault Time's Arrow Part 1 and 2. We're starting with Part 1, which is, of course, episode 26 of Season 5, the very last episode. Production number 40275-226, and it first aired in the US on the 15th of June, 1992. It was the 125th episode to be both produced and released, and the teleplay was by Joe Minosky and Michael Piller, with the original story by Joe. This was Joe Minosky's 10th of 16 writing credits and Michael Piller's 13th of 15. It was directed by Les Lando, his 28th of 34 directing credits for TNG. My God, he directed a lot of episodes.
So they were originally not even going to do this as the end of season 5 as a cliffhanger, but the advent of Deep Space Nine, which was being filmed at the same time as Part 2, started off some rumors that TNG was sort of shutting down. So they decided to send a message to show that the show was still alive and going to be coming back. So and they toyed with a few different time periods. Obviously settled with the late 19th century. Joe Minosky wanted to involve Guinan, so that was quite a big motivator for the story. And he'd also spent quite a bit of time studying Mark Twain's writings, particularly his essays and lectures, to try and find his voice. This was also the last time Gene Roddenberry's credited as executive producer, and I think that's about it for my pre-stuff.
Cool.
It's also the last episode with the kind of shooting Star Trek logo where it kind of shoots into the screen. They stopped doing that after this
True.
one.
With the sort of shading coming off of it.
Yeah. The kind of shooting star effect, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's a shame. Well, it's what I put on the review show on our review show logo. I kind of mimicked that kind of flashing in look. But they only brought it in for this season, so it didn't last very long, did it?
Nope, apparently not.
And I think this 2-part also marks the end of Picard's semi-relaxed uniform as well, because I don't think they use that in future seasons.
I also noticed that the first episode is just called Time's Arrow, not Time's Arrow Part 1, so they didn't really, they didn't really emphasize the fact it was a 2-parter, and maybe not everyone would have got it, particularly if they just happened to be out that day, they missed it,
Yeah.
Since they were trying to say, no, there's another season, because we have to finish the episode kind of thing.
It did say to be continued.
At the end, yeah, it did. Yeah.
That's a true point.
But no, they didn't advertise it that way very well, did they?
Yeah, but if they said Time's Arrow Part 1, if you missed it and just read about it in the TV guide, you'd understand that it was coming back. It's a bit of subtle marketing, if you like.
Oh, I see you finally got your little Earl Grey tea hot cup.
Oh, yes.
Are you drinking
Although
tea?
You feel
No,
it's
I'm
red wine.
Red wine chilled at the moment.
nice. That's what you want on a warm day.
Yeah, it's been in the fridge for a few hours.
Okay, good news.
My brother was staying with me, and I handed him coffee this morning, one of these, and he's a proper Trek nerd, didn't even comment on it. I was like, well, that was pointless.
Good news, I think my pictures are working this week. So
Yay.
we should be
Yay.
all right. Everything seems to be working. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Wicked.
Okay, so episode opens with the teaser. We have the Enterprise being recalled to Sector 001 on a priority mission due to the discovery of the presence of extraterrestrials on Earth some 5 centuries ago. Oops, no. It works if you put it in, if you make sure the right tab is operating. That's the thing. So Picard and go on.
No, it doesn't matter.
I'm going to use this button.
Shut up, Sean.
There you go. First use of it today.
Shut up, Sean.
There we go. Picard and Data enter the mine, where a scientist has found some glasses, a Colt pistol, and a pocket watch. The scientist explains that they were investigating the cave because they're installing some seismic regulators in the caverns under San Francisco. We're having difficulty with phase conditioning due to, as it turns out, the composition of the walls of the cavern itself. Data scans them with his tricorder and finds that the rock face altered by exposure to triolic waves, which are foreign on Earth in any century. Picard is curious as to why the Enterprise has been recalled to investigate, as surely there will be people on Earth more qualified. Then the scientist explains, oh, and by the way, we also found this. They uncover Data's head on the floor of the cavern.
Can you just go back to the previous shot? Is it my imagination, or is his hand not have makeup on it?
Oh yeah, it does look a bit pink, doesn't it?
It does look a bit pink.
Where has it been? Oh my.
Oh my.
Nice.
What is it? Because his hand is naked.
Yeah.
It's been in the pink.
Anyway, that is the end of your teaser.
Oh, we should have some questions. Okay, I'll probably go back to the first episode. That would make sense. Okay, where does Picard... Sorry, at the beginning of the thing, it said, where does Picard say they were recalled to? Was it A, Starfleet Academy, Tillman Water Reclamation Plant, C, Sector 001, D, Earth, E, who cares, give me the vitamin D.
Oh.
And the bonus, you can have up to 2 answers. And the bonus question is, what day of the week was 30th November 1889, which was the date of the inscription on the pocket watch?
How am I supposed to know that?
Well, you've a 1 in 7 chance.
It's easy to look up, but I'm not going to do that. Sector 001, that is Earth, isn't it? So, yeah.
Is the sector that Earth
The
is
sector
in, yes.
Earth is in.
Yeah,
Because
it goes
everything
to-
starts from Earth, Alpha Quadrant 001.
Yeah.
It is the center of the universe, after all.
Yeah, even though it's not. But when I started mapping it, they called it 01. Even Borg called it Sector 001.
Oh, I was going to go
Yes.
Wednesday, Maz, and then I went Saturday. No, I kind of.
I was going to go
Well-
Wednesday, then I nearly went Saturday, but I thought, no, I can't. I better go with my first choice, otherwise I'll kick myself.
Good Friday then.
It'll be neither. Don't worry, Monty. It'll be neither. So, yeah, there's a couple of issues with some of the props that they found there. So Data picks up a pair of glasses and says that they're bifocals. They're clearly little flat discs of
Yeah.
glass. There's no actual lenses, and there certainly isn't two grades of lens. So not a very accurate prop.
Yeah.
Also, they pick up a Colt revolver, which Data says is double action, but it's actually single action. And a little bit later on, it changes to being I think it was a Colt single action army chamber. It was a slightly different model later on that's in use. And then a couple of factoids. Data's head is later used as a severed head of a Borg drone in Unimatrix Zero, and the head is used again in Phantasms.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't.
yes,
Put,
I've seen it.
I was going to put in Data's head being extracted by the Borg Queen, but I didn't put it in, so I'm glad I didn't.
Ah,
Okay, has everybody got their answers in? I mean, we should have all guessed one
think
separate,
so.
separate day, but there's
What?
been
Yeah.
some
Dance,
Wednesdays
yes.
and
I think we've got 6
Saturdays.
players today.
I
Well,
was the
you-
only
you-
one
you-
who went away from the crowd.
Yeah.
Well, you could. I don't know why you all picked 2 days, with the exception of Ruth. Saturday was the correct answer.
Chief Sean is breaking up a little.
Yeah, and it was Sector 001. Although, yeah, he could have referred to going back to Earth as going back to Earth, or going back to Starfleet, or going back to or obviously he wouldn't have said Tillman Water Reclamation Plant, but that's the shooting location that they show as Starfleet. But yeah, he went to specific. I just thought it was odd. He said Sector 001 instead of Earth or HQ or Starfleet.
He did. He probably was looking forward to the vitamin D, though. To be fair, that's probably what he was thinking.
Yeah, I probably would have given you a pass for that. But we've got Monty, Andrew, and Tavi on the wheel, I think. So there's 3 names.
Yeah.
Saturday.
Despite the fact it was a 1 in 7 chance and roughly 7 people answered, I got 3 right answers. So I'm not saying anyone's cheating, but you're beating the odds.
We certainly didn't cheat.
I know you didn't. I'm only messing, but you're certainly beating the odds. Fair play to you.
Okay. I will spin. It was me, Andrew, and Ruth, wasn't it?
I just went with the people.
No, not me.
No, it was me.
Tavi,
it
I
was
think.
Tavi. Sorry.
Tavi, Andrew, Monty, yeah.
Spin that wheel.
And I didn't just pick it because it was a Wednesday. I just thought it'd make a good question because nobody would know the answer.
Yay!
Tavi!
I will let you know, Sean, that
Yeah, my camera's
your
frozen.
camera's frozen for some reason. Just let you know. One other thing I will say is you did say the Tillman Water Reclamation Plant in the very first scene where we see like Starfleet, and it's the Tillman Reclamation Plant that was reused from that Wesley episode where he was at Starfleet Academy, and you can just see in the first few frames you can see Picard walk one way and Wesley walk the other way as they walk away from each other.
Nice. Okay, we're good. OBS had a hiccup.
Oh, there you go. There we go. Okay.
I wasn't sure I could shut down OBS and keep the audio going, but apparently I can. Sorry, please continue.
Act 1. They take the head back to the Enterprise, and Data gives it a good going over in engineering, and it bothers Riker that Data is not phased by this at all.
It looks like he's got a little bun there.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's got a little
His
top
flap
one.
is open.
Yeah.
Go on, Tavi.
Man bun. I thought it was very strange that this entire episode he failed to say it's because I'm an android.
Well, there's again,
Like they
you
all
haven't
forgot that he
seen
didn't have feelings.
Red Dwarf, but there's a scene in Red Dwarf where they open up Crichton's head, and do you know the way in the old cars you used to have like a little stick to keep the bonnet up? So like they open the head and he has like a little stick. I'm not selling this properly, but it's a very
like
funny
bonnet.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they don't have them in cars anymore. Remember, you used to have to put the stick up to keep it up and smash it into your head. And I just think of that when they're opening his head. It's like, that's nice.
Ding ding, Red Dwarf reference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Picard asks if this is Data or lore, but Data is sure that it is his own because of positronic science stuff things. Data determines that
the exact answer.
No. Data determines the decomposition of the head shows life was terminated around 500 years ago, consistent with the other artifacts found. Data seems resigned to his fate. I was surprised that, when they call it decomposition of his, and life was terminated. He can tell that life was terminated 500 years ago, so it means it's obviously got some significant issues, that head. If he can tell. Anyway, we'll come back to that later.
Well, I will say, if you're going to store something for 500 years, an underground cavern is probably the best place you can do it, assuming it's dry. I mean, there's reasons why you have you store wine like champagne underground, because once you go a certain distance below the Earth, is 12 degrees Celsius, regardless of the temperature, and the humidity is stable, and everything else. So you don't get any extremes in temperature, you don't get any extremes in humidity, and you're much more likely to be able to store things.
I know the government has massive document stores in like old mines, old salt mines and things.
Yeah, well, salt mines obviously have no humidity because the salt will suck it out. So yeah, depending on what it is. Obviously, metal doesn't do well, but documents can.
Okay, Geordie finds that there are shapeshifters of some kind, or that they are shapeshifters of some kind. They are species they have never encountered before. Luckily, he also finds a fossil that only exists in Davidia 2.
Davidia.
So Picard orders to set course for Davidia 2. Later in 10 Forward, Data and Geordie are talking about Data's future demise. Data finds it comforting to know that one day he will die. His apparently immortality makes him feel his mortality makes him feel one more step towards being human. Data gets called to the bridge, and Guinan comes over and asks what they were talking about. And after Geordie tells her, she's like, full circle. So she knows something about all this.
Yeah.
In a walking talk, Riker confides in Troy that he's angry about all this.
Yeah, we can see that on his face.
Yeah. Riker spends a lot of this two-parter being angry. Yeah, he's angry. I'm angry. And
he kind of looks like Donald Trump Jr. in that shot.
How dare you? I hope Jonathan Frakes never hears you say that. He'll be devastated.
Yeah, no,
I've heard
also,
some put-downs, some horrible things said about people in my time, but
kick him out of his stage.
I'm sure he's a perfectly lovely man from what I hear about him. I've not had the chance to meet him.
Once someone in work compared me to Danny DeVito. That hurt.
Well, I can tell you, I've spoke to some of the people, on Twitter, that work on the set, and they were always the guy who worked on both Picard and the Orville. His name's Kit Stolen, and anyway, they were always delighted when Jonathan Frakes was directing, because they always left like 2 or 3 hours earlier than any other director. Like they got home early so instead of having 12 to 14-hour days, they got out after 9. They were delighted. So
and why
they're like, yes.
Why did they get out early?
Something about him being efficient and using a minimum number of takes. I don't know, something about that. I could
Shut up, Sean.
Hiya, Smiler Rainbow. I hope you are well in a car park somewhere in Plymouth.
Bring back wine.
Yeah, bring back wine. Have no wine. I'm on blackcurrant squash. So yeah,
it can't be 2 weeks in a row with no wine, Monty.
It's bad news, isn't it? It's bad news.
Wine.
Have you got something to drink tonight, Ensign Bryce?
Yeah, I just have some Vocate Life and Death IPA.
Oh, nice. Very nice indeed. So Troy does a good impression of Data, just as Data appears in the turbo lift behind them, so they promptly shut up. Data questions why people are acting differently around him, like they just were outside the lift, and Riker tells him, well, it's just that our mental pathways have become accustomed to your sensory input pattern. And Data tells him that he's fond of them both also. They reach the planet and Data finds temporal disturbance and triolic waves. Riker takes an away team and Worf and Geordi and Troy, leaving Data behind. Data questions why he's been left behind, as one cannot cheat fate. Picard tells him maybe not, but we can have a jolly good try at it anyway. The away team materialise on the planet, in the cave, and Deanna senses life. Hundreds of terrified humans. Dun 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 dun. And that was the end of Act 1.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, lovely. Shooting along. Okay, so question 1.
Question 2.
Question 2, rather. Act 1 question. What type of phase discriminator does Data have in his oh-so-perfect head? A, type A. B, type O. C, type L. D, type R. E, gosh, 2 Datas, I am having improper thoughts. And bonus question. Data's supposition that something has occurred so will occur again is an example of a pre-blank paradox. So a time travel paradox, well known, mentioned in other episodes, a pre-something paradox. So if you go back in the past and you become your own grandfather, you always would have went into the past because otherwise you wouldn't exist. So there's a name for that.
Well,
Couple of little bitty bits. So Data, when they're in 10-4, Data says that he finds it comforting to know that he's someday going to die, that the idea of mortality brings him closer to being human. But the fact that he finds it comforting, like surely that's kind of an emote anyway, in some way. Also,
He's like a Terminator. He can't self-terminate.
When Deanna Troi quotes what Data thinks of as friendship, she's quoting exactly what he says word for word in the episode Legacy, where he describes his perceptions of friendship in response, friendship to Ishara Yar. And he's thinking about obviously Tasha Yar and the closeness that he had with her. And a couple of set issues in this act, a really big one actually, in just at the beginning, as there was a panning shot sort of around Data's head in engineering, and there's a crew member in the background, just stood there, like with a long sleeve white t-shirt on.
Nice.
Which
so,
scene was that?
It was sort of right at the beginning as they're fixing Data's head. There's this sort of sequence where it kind of pans around, and as it pans around, you sort of see just behind a panel that maybe the person who stood there didn't think the camera was going to pan quite so far around. And apparently this is the 4th time that a production member was accidentally filmed. There was a camera operator in The Naked Now. There were a couple of camera operators in Angel 1. There's a boom operator in Unification 2. And then after this, there are 2 more, one in Birthright Part 1 and one in Journey's End.
Okay.
And,
there, by the looks of it. There you go. Yeah. You see his little arm there on the left-hand side of the picture.
oh, there he is.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Just about.
You'd think that they'd have. I mean, rather than wear their own clothes, that they would have, just.
You think they
not
just put
exactly
uniforms on, and then
but
if they're seen,
t-shirts
Great
that kind of
idea.
match the uniform. So if you're caught in the back of a shot, you wouldn't really notice, that kind of thing.
This is what I was saying earlier. Picard's here walking off that way, and that's Wesley just walking off that way.
Although it happened in Mandalorian that there was a guy caught, and he's just known as Jeans Guy. But because it was streamed, they literally fixed it a day later. And the same in Game of Thrones, there was some coffee cups that showed up in set, and just within 2 days, they just re-edited the episode and they just removed it from the thing. So that's the way the world has gone. These things are just erased from the internet as best they can.
There was a second little one when Troy and Riker are heading towards the turbo lift. Just as you sort of see them stood by the turbo lift chatting, there's a really faint shadow of a boom mic on the right-hand side, just over her shoulder. You can almost see it there. Just it's towards the
Is it
top
that
on the
one?
right.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not. It's on the beige. It's like
it's over
right on
here,
the
is it?
right hand side on the beige.
I can't quite see it.
Yeah, you can't see it very well, but it is. That's there. That's all I got for Act 1. Anybody else got any comments?
No.
We can have answers to the questions.
D was correct. It was
Damn
a
it.
type R. It's in the R's. Type L was lower, and the other ones were just made up. And it was a predestination paradox. So predestination. So you're always destined to go back in time because there's a loop through time that has to be completed in order for something to happen. But Star Trek is a little bit inconsistent with the way
they don't stick to that
treat
school of thought at all.
No.
During
basically,
Star Trek.
Yeah, because by that logic, if you go back in time, you were always meant to go back in time. Therefore, any changes you make won't matter because they've already been made. But that's not the way we see it. You also have the kind of Back to the Future way. You go back to the past and then you travel into the future, but you travel into a different future because you made changes in the past, and so on. But they're very inconsistent about the way they treat time travel. It just keeps changing depending on the episode.
Okay, I'm spinning the wheel with 5 people on the board.
Yeah, but it should by all rights create a new universe every time they do that, but it didn't happen.
Dumbass.
About to say Tabby again, but no. Sorry.
Wow, that was a close one.
Me too.
That is good justice because when I was thinking of the paradox name, I kept confusing myself, thinking that predestination. I'm like, no, those are the horror movies with death coming back after people, right? And then I saw NASA put in destination. I'm like, okay, I'm not.
Well, the other common one that philosophers argue about is the grandfather paradox, which is if you went back into the past, you couldn't shoot. You should be able to shoot your grandfather, but if you shot your grandfather, you never would have been born. Therefore, how could you grow up to go back in the past? How can time travel exist then? Because it innately doesn't make any logical sense. So anyway,
which is why
people
it's so
argue about these
consistent.
things.
Yeah, it's why it's so consistent,
absolutely.
because nobody really knows what would actually happen.
Yeah.
Because nothing makes sense.
No.
The grandfather paradox more or less says it's impossible to travel back into the past because if you did, you'd have the opportunity to stop yourself being born. So it's just not possible.
Act 2. Riker reports their findings back to the Enterprise. Data finds triolic waves has caused a temporal phase displacement of 0.004%, which is enough to render the Davidians invisible. Data might be able to make contact as he has a polytronic decompiler that could act as a phase discriminator. Everybody got that? Good. But that means he has to go to the surface, and Picard reluctantly agrees. Data joins...
Can we just talk about that? Just talk about that a second. He just pulls up the back of it, and I love it.
Oh, hello, Sean. What was it? Sorry,
I said if you look at the chair, he's pulled up the back of it.
Oh,
and
yes,
you never see that. It's very rare that they show that. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I noticed that as well. But I guess for him to turn around and lean on it in the right way, they had to pull the back up, else it would have been
You guys
too
are
low.
missing the wrong subject matter. You're supposed to be looking at data, not the chair.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
Look
I know.
at those
Our
lines.
bad. Our bad.
We're all looking at data. We're all looking at data.
Yeah.
So here, Data joins the away team on the planet, explains
We'll
that he
always
will...
look at the D.
Yeah. Data joins the away team on the planet, explains that he will not be visible, but they will be able to hear him via open comms channel with their communicators. They start and Data disappears as he reaches the 0.004 variance. Now, I thought they made a big deal like a couple of episodes ago about like this whole phase technology being a
The next
taboo
phase,
thing, and no, Data can just do it at whim with something in his brain box. It's like, what?
He can just basically tune it like a fiddle and just create a little beam around his head.
Data's just
Figure that one
become probably like now even more important to Starfleet than he ever was before, because now he could just phase himself into any Romulan leader's apartment block or whatever palace, and just phase in, blast them, phase back out again.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
So
technically, any of them can do it, right? Because they figured out the equipment themselves.
well, they do. They figure it out
Geordie
pretty.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, spoilers. In the episode, they build a thing in a couple of hours, and later on in the episode again, they just tune a phaser and they just shoot it. So, well, look, that's writing for you.
So Data reports visual contact with life forms in the room, but they don't react to his presence. He describes them vaguely humanoid creatures, 2 to 3 meters high, silvery grey in colour, with an orifice on their foreheads. They are surrounded by apparatus. They surround an apparatus that is distributing energy fragments, which they are consuming via their forehead orifices. I don't know, but the picture I was painting in my head was a hell of a lot more gruesome than what we actually end up seeing.
I was thinking like a Cardassian with the old spoon head or whatever, but the kind of
Like head orifices?
not how they go with it.
No, gosh.
Yeah. Kind of the opposite of a dick head, a dick vagina.
This is where that orifice.
Vagina head.
The bright flash of light is seen in the cavern, and the phasing device that Data was carrying falls to the floor. Troy yells out Data's name, and Riker reports to Picard that they have lost him. Then we see Data lying in a street outside a firehouse sometime in the 19th century. And that's the end of Act 2.
Actually, I'm glad that screenshot is just exactly how it is. Right. So anyway, next question. Oh, crap! This is too long. 1 second.
Won't paste into your little paste box.
Yeah. No, I have to do it in 2 parts. Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to ruin what Sean was going to say, but apparently, that number 5 firehouse there, according to production designer Richard D. James, a museum loaned out the horse-driven fire vehicle for the first time ever, thanks to the power of the words Star Trek.
Yeah, very cool.
Nice. Okay, so sorry, I had to paste it in 2 parts. I know I did them backwards, but I did it for a reason. So in Picard Season 2, Data asked Mr. Pickard for one last favor. What does he ask for? A. Kill the skin of evil. B. A nose reduction. C. A virtual spot pet. D. To die. E. Some fully functional, footloose, and fancy free fun times. And the bonus question.
TNG question, you naughty boy.
It's relevant to this episode, and I'll explain why in a minute.
Two nitpicks there. One, that's not a TNG question of the episode. And 2, wasn't it the end of season 1 of Picard?
Was it season 1? Okay,
Yeah.
I stand corrected. Right. And the second question is, Ophidians are more commonly known as what family of creatures? So in other words, we commonly refer to them canines as dogs and felines as cats. Ophidians will be, more simply named as what kind of grouping?
Cool.
Yeah, I did them the other way around. Yeah.
So there's a couple of minor little things. So the Ophidian staff, Data describes as being 1.5 meters tall. Clearly, when we see it later on, it's only about a meter.
Yeah, that sounds like an American, yeah.
The only other one I've got is that a lot of these external scenes in San Francisco, supposedly San Francisco, were shot on location, like the historic Pico House along Olvera Street. It was a restored area near the first mission in Old Los Angeles. So it was like an old restored sort of town. But in the part 2, they go to the a New York set lot, studio lot. They don't film on locations, so they change from episode to episode. But this was
they had a fire.
Streets.
they had a fire and it was out of action, and then they fixed it over the summer, and they were able to film part 2 there.
It is a two-parter that does feel very different between the two parts. I know they
Yeah,
kind
very
of
much
all
so.
do, but the feel of these two parts of these episodes do feel very different.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder
But
if my
yeah,
internet's
sorry,
bit
but
funny
a
this
meter and a half of a staff. I mean, I'm 1.9 and I'm really quite tall, so I mean, it's basically the height of a short woman or an average.
But it's
size
only
woman,
like
you know, 5
waist
foot,
height.
5 foot
Yeah.
5 or something, you know, in feet. So it's it was even a meter was too high. It was probably 800 centimeters. So yeah, roughly half what he said it was. But I guess just Americans don't understand meters.
Yeah. Okay, should we have the answers then?
Sorry,
Well,
I messed
of
up
course
the question.
not if
but
you're going to say 800 centimeters.
centimeters.
That would be 8
Or-
meters.
Sorry, 800 millimeters.
800 millimeters.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You see, just corrected
Yeah.
by an American in metric.
The American.
Yeah,
Please make
yeah.
note.
That's awful.
I have to hand in my. I have to
Shame.
hand in my European card, much like the Brits.
Yeah.
But the so the answer was to die. He wanted to die, and the reason was the relevance. Obviously, is he mentioned this episode to feel truly human, he has to die sometimes, and they obviously they alluded to that in Picard. And the second question was yes, Ophidian is basically a snake.
So we got 6 answers correct
I
for
appreciate that question,
B,
though, because
and then
I
we've
have
got
not
5
enjoyed-
answers correct.
I'll send you this in the
Everybody
post. Sorry,
except
hold on.
Andrew, I think. Andrew guessed tortoise, which would be
My
way
passport
cuter than a
card.
snake.
It would.
Would.
It would look pretty fun on the staff.
I don't know what family tortoises and turtles go into, but I'm sure they have their own genus, every way they categorize it.
Right, I'm spinning the wheel.
They're just called shelly things.
Oh, it's gonna be me! It's gonna be me!
Monty!
Yay, me. I got some of those points back that I missed from
You didn't win, Monty.
getting one
You
question
got
wrong.
Andrew on the list and you threw off the percentage.
So was that?
But he won anyway, so.
Oh,
it's
okay.
I was saying you
Actually-
don't really win. You put Andrew in there. And
Oh,
that throws off the roll, the spin.
Oh,
did.
yes.
I put Andrew in
Supposed to
there.
be
Yeah.
5 people.
Never mind, I'm taking it
Okay.
anyway.
Okay, well, and just for the record, turtles and things like terrapins and all that are testudines, just so you know.
Oh, right. Well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but that's what they are. They're testudines.
Act 3. Data wanders around looking for someone with a snake, but reads about a cholera outbreak in a local paper. He meets a 49er who is begging for whiskey money to treat his leg that he hurt falling down a mine shaft, and he gives him advice on how to beg for money. Data then meets a bellboy outside a Hotel Brian, and asks about lodging, though he doesn't have any money. They don't have a job for him, so he realizes that there's a poker game going on in there, and he's like, "Ooh, poker." Data's interest is piqued. Just a quick thing on that. Do we know what a 49er means? You know what a 49er is?
We do.
Yeah, it's the big earthquake. And also, they're a football team or something?
Yes.
Yeah, they're a football.
No.
Yeah, well, they are a football team, but where does the term 49er come from? There's not an
There was
It
a
was
big
because in
earthquake.
1948 there was gold discovered, and there was a
Yes.
massive rush of about 300,000 people, like a big gold rush, there, like the following year in 1949, and a lot of those people ended up out of jobs, and because there were so many
Okay.
people rushed to that area all at once, so they were considered as 49ers. And I mean, many of he's complaining about mining and stuff, but yeah, most of them ended up broke and unemployed.
in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
In San Francisco, which is why the San Francisco
However, it was
football
one
team are
of the
called
reasons.
49ers.
It was one of the reasons.
It was one of the reasons.
It was one of the reasons why California ended up becoming a state was because that big rush did create a balloon of economy, and small settlements actually got bigger. So that's where the state of California came from.
Yeah.
And to be fair, California to this day, I think if it's ranked as a country, I think it beats like Germany and France. It's not quite far behind the UK. You know, it's a really huge economy.
Everybody
it's
rushed
much
there.
bigger than the UK.
Sorry?
It's like the third. It's much bigger than the UK. It's like it's like the third biggest economy in the whole world or something.
Yeah, if you treat it as a country,
Crazy
yeah.
Yeah.
Same with Texas, yeah. Like there's one or two states that are just carrying the rest. They have a lot of passengers.
They they all rushed to California in 49, and then California joined the United States in 50, just a year later.
All right.
Fastest rush through joining of a state in their history. So,
it's about the time that the famine just kind of took off over here. So I'm sure a lot of Irish people ended up over there because they were literally fleeing our country from starvation. So.
And funnily enough,
I'd
I just
imagine...
started watching Deadwood with Vicky for the first time with Smiler Rainbow, who's never seen it. So, we're just nearing the end of season 1, which is
nice.
pretty cool. So Data's going to go play some poker. He visits the poker game, and luckily, as another player just exits, a spot has opened up. And a Louisiana Gold Ducat thinks he looks a little strange, but Data explains that he is French. Ducat speaks to him in French, and Data replies in perfect French. I think Ducat says something like that he was born in Burgundy, and Data says that makes us almost brothers.
No, he said his parents were born in Bourgogne or something, but yeah, basically, pretty much he said we're fraternal.
Something like that. Data has no money, so bets his com badge, and Goldacott gives him $3 for it. I hope he gets that com badge back. Do we see him get that com badge back?
Yeah,
he wins everything.
He wins, but we don't know if he cheats or not.
No.
That's a good point.
He's very capable of it.
Yeah.
Smiler Rainbow's home. Oh, Smiler Rainbow's home with Vino.
She brought that wine.
I looked for a Vino.
Well done, Smiler Rainbow.
I looked for a Vino with an arrow on because of times arrow, but I couldn't find one, so I got they had a ship. So yeah.
Chardonnay.
Is that right?
I got a Chardonnay with a ship on it.
Is it a clipper ship?
It's a steam. It's like a small Titanic.
Nice. But I have two minor problems with the scene. Well, one, both of them, technically speak French. Neither of them are fluent. It's horribly obvious. And the second one is he puts his comm badge in, which has his technology. If someone wants to contact him, he could lose that. He's got pins on his collar that are made of gold as well. He could hand those in just as easy.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's true.
And actually, the third thing is, okay, he gets $3. He doesn't haggle. I can understand that. Silver dollar coins, and the what you call it, the blood, the money he has to put in for the hand is $1 immediately. So we, if you've one chip to even buy into a hand, if you've got 3 chips, you're not going to go far.
Which makes me think he cheated.
It's very possible, and
all he needed
was
enough cheap chips to put in the ante.
Yeah.
As long as he wins.
So, later, the bellboy shows him to his room after Data's cleared the poker players out of all their winnings, and apparently Goldacott's waistcoat and the Indian's hat. The bellhop is impressed as he, along with the poker players, thought Data a fool. After giving him a large tip of $1, Data gives the bellboy a list of things to procure on his behalf, and when asked why, claims to be an inventor. On leaving, the bellboy passes the old 49er, who's not doing well, on the side of the road, and he gets approached by 2 well-dressed individuals, one with a staff and the other with a handbag that steals his living essence.
I think we're just going to leave it at one with a
Typical
staff
women.
and another one with a handbag. Good weapon.
Yeah. Yeah. A handbag that steals the living essence out of people. It reminds me of, is it the Dark Crystal, you know, where those, I've forgotten what they were called, those horrible creatures which steal like the living essence off of gelflings.
Skeksis, thank you.
Skeksis. Oh, that was terrifying when I was a little kid.
Also, the cards that they use in the episode are Tiger brand 565 playing cards. I think they come from China or Thailand or something, and they're not in print anymore, but you can buy them for cheap enough money. So if you want the cards that Data had a sweet hands on, they're out there in the real world.
It was the end of the act.
Question,
so you got
Sean?
a question, Sean?
We do, yeah. Hopefully everyone's forgotten the answer because Mazza said it. Where are we?
Oh.
Data wakes up outside which... Don't be sorry if that happens. Data wakes up outside which firehouse? A, number 1, B, number 2, C, number 3, D, number 4, E, number 5.
I can't remember what she said.
Good. And
let Ruth answer first.
and
That's so mean.
Yeah. When I don't know the answer, I just answer first and hope people follow me. But the don't let on. But the so at least if I'm wrong, nobody gets points off me if they all answer the same way. But the second question is, he says it's 6 bits a day to stay in the hotel. 6 bits is equivalent to how many cents?
Is this like their imperial money?
No.
Crowns and stuff.
Shillings. And...
No.
Shillings.
It's not quite that, but it's out of 100 cents. It's a number of cents. Well, I will give you a clue. You can't have 1 bit. You have to have 2 bits because it's an odd number. It's not a whole number. So I'll tell you that much.
You said earlier the ante was $1 then, right?
Yeah, well, he put it. He got 3 coins, which presumably are silver dollars, and then he handed 1 straight back in. So there was no
The
change.
ante
He had
was
3
supposed
coins.
to be 4 bits.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there's Wook.
There it is.
Hi, Wookie. Hope you're well, so.
Hey, Wook.
Wookie.
I'm tempted to copy Tavi because she's American and will know.
Yeah.
But then I don't know if, she's just trying to put me off.
Yeah. So was it number 1 firehouse, number 2 firehouse, number 3 firehouse, number 4 firehouse, number 5 firehouse, number 1 dad?
Sorry, I was supposed to guess first, wasn't I? I was thinking about the bits
Anyway,
too much, so I'm
I
going
should,
in. Well,
I
think
should
about the
get through
bits.
some of my trivia.
Yeah,
and
go for it. Go for it. Well, give everyone a chance.
While you're guessing, so the 49er, he starts to cough at one point and he puts his hand up, and then you see him from another angle, the other hand is up, so a little continuity error there. Jack London places a bet on Gentleman Gin for a knockout in the 5th. This must be a reference to Gentleman James J. Corbett, heavyweight boxing champion of the world from 1892 to 1897, and his defense against Charlie Mitchell in Jacksonville, Florida. The fight was agreed upon in the early summer of 1893, due to fight in December, but was put back by 1 month. And Corbett knocked out Mitchell in the 3rd round. So Jack would have lost his bet because he bet it on the 5th. Also, when he puts the bet on, the guy he hands the money to goes, "All right," but his lips don't move. So they must have dubbed those words in later. Also, from a Jack London perspective, obviously later we found out he's Jack London. He's shown as working as a bellboy at this point in time, but actually, because this is August 1993, during that year, Jack London had actually sailed to Japan, and when he returned, there was much labor and unrest and financial panic gripped the San Francisco and Oakland area. So that's a bit of a historic inaccuracy. This was Mark Alamo's last TNG performance as one of the poker players, the one speaking French. Obviously, as I mentioned, Emissary is actually filmed at the same time as Part 2. That's where he makes his first appearance as Ducat, his most famous character that he plays during any sort of Star Trek characters that he plays. And we already talked about the French that they spoke. And the final bit is that when Data offers his comm badge, he says it's composed of silicon, beryllium, and carbon-70 and gold. But carbon isotopes have mass numbers from 10 to 15, but a mass number of 70 would not be possible because there are 64 neutrons. So it would not be possible, chemically speaking. That's it.
Perfect. Okay, well, we'll go back to the questions. So, yes, I'm sorry, I'm actually jumping around. Yes, it was the number 5 firehouse, and a bit is $1, so it's 12.5 cents. So it doesn't quite. It's not a round number. Yes! So 6 bits is 75. And I looked it up. Yeah. It's roughly $26 in today's money, so it was a hell of a deal. Especially considering.
Yeah, I was thinking how much is a bit. I actually put down how much is a bit. I forgot the question was how much is 6 bits.
Yeah, so unlucky.
How much is 6 bits? Is that what the question was?
Yeah.
Oh,
6 bits is equivalent to how many cents?
Oh,
yeah,
I just thought it was a bit. Oh, I said
we're going to copy.
I mean, you did understand the question. I think we can allow because you did understand it. You just misread it. So, yeah, I think
we got the bit. We got the bit was 12.5 cents.
Yeah. I think we can forgive that. So, and Mazza said $1. We can forgive that as well.
It was when you said it wasn't a whole number, and you need 2 of them to make up a proper coin. And I thought, what's the lowest coin that I know? A quarter. So then I thought, well, half of that must be 12.5.
Basically, a Mexican peso used to be able to divide into 8s, and a Mexican peso and a US dollar used to have the same value. And for whatever reason, they kind of imported this idea of an eighth of a dollar, but there was no coins to support it. So 2 bits is 25 cents or a quarter. So, but so you hear someone say 2 bits, they mean a quarter. It's just Mazza, obviously growing up in the States, knew that. I'll accept Mazza. I'll accept your answer. Monty, I'll accept your answer. Okay. So, yeah, Tavi, Mazza, and Monty, the 3 of you can go for the spin.
The 3 amigos here. The 3 hosts here.
I think it's ease all around for it was the number 5 firehouse. Yeah.
Oh, look, it's me again. I'll cheer for myself. Bang! It's not rigged. It's not rigged. Who said it's rigged?
Yeah.
I want to recount.
It's not unusual for the person running raffle to win the raffle.
Yeah,
ease all round.
That's good.
Ease all round. Good evening, Ash. Hope you're well, sir.
Ash, evening. How are you, sir? Welcome.
Okay, on to Act 4 then.
Where is Panko?
We don't know. Okay, Act 4. The senior staff are in a meeting in the observation lounge, and guess what? Riker is angry. Picard asked Geordi if he can recreate what Data did, and Geordi said he might be able to, though it might take some time. He should be able to create one.
He wants to bang Tasha?
Yeah, apparently. He wants
to. Late.
You've put me off my.
Sorry, go on. He wants to.
Geordi says he might be able to, but it might take some time. He should be able to create one large enough, though, a whole field to take multiple crew members. In this scene, he went from it's impossible, we can't do it, to I might be able to do it, though it's going to be really difficult and take ages, to we can do it and we can take a whole crew with us. It's like, wow.
And do it in a couple of hours.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know what it is about
the whole ship. The whole ship.
Just take the whole ship.
But I don't know. Yeah, he just says the crew or the group or whatever. But I don't know what it is about that shot. But he never looks so much like his action figures in that shot. I can't explain it any better than that. But yeah, he looks exactly like his figure.
He looks very.
Okay, Worf
Sorry,
point.
Tab, we
Looks
lost
very
you.
annoyed in that photo. Like, you about to ask me some dumb shit again, ain't you?
He does, yeah. He's like, oh, here we go again. Okay, so Worf points out that if they do follow Data, then they may all perish, as their bodies would have just turned to dust by now. And of course that doesn't really fill Riker with a lot of hope. In 10 forward, Guinan has called Picard to speak to her. It's unusual for Guinan to want to speak to Picard. She's practicing making, am I allowed to say?
Yeah, better you don't.
Okay.
A cocktail.
It's heroin.
She's making a drink. She's practicing making some drinks. She tells him
That'll do.
that while Starfleet captains don't usually
Narcotics.
go on away missions, this time he needs to go. She asks him if he remembers when they first met, and he said he does, but she tells him not to be sure about that. If he doesn't go, they will never meet. So back in 1893, Data is building a doohickey when his bellboy arrives with an anvil. Data picks it up with one hand as though it doesn't weigh anything, and then suddenly remembers he's supposed to be human, and goes, "Oh, it's so heavy," and drops it.
Can I just appreciate
That was-
Data's dicky in that photo? It's a very nice dicky indeed.
My favorite part of that episode.
Bow ties
He's
are
trimmed
cool.
it and kept it neat and tight. It's a very nice dicky altogether.
Panko's at work. Oh.
Right, go!
Do you want to give it a panko anyway, Tavi? Just for.
I'm so sorry I didn't win the lottery so we could all buy our lives back. Huh?
Do you want to give it a panko anyway? Just
In honor of her
in
absence.
honor of her absence.
This is a salute since the House of Panko is represented by Ash. Panko!
Yay! There we go.
Asasaki!
Okay. Yeah, the bellboy wants to know what the contraption's going to be and thinks it's an engine for a horseless carriage. He offers to go into business with Data, being the salesman, to Data being the inventor. And Data says that we will see. He says, we'll think about it, we will see. And the bellboy reads that as a definite yes. Data then notices Guinan in the newspaper. And that's how we end Act 4.
Oh, we might need some questions. So, 2 seconds there. So, yes, well done, Monty, for realizing there's a question there. What type of aperitif is Guinan making? Sarzak,
I have a feeling.
Sunkatsi, or Tsunami? And, yeah, the second question is, what item does the D-Man lift that accidentally demonstrates his android abilities? I write these questions and I still trip over them because I make them too alliterative.
I wanted a question about how the drink, how you extract the taste from the drink.
Yeah, there was a thing about it being half a degree less than the body temperature, and like are they
At
scanning
its
you? Like, what,
evaporation point, so it evaporates just as it touches your tongue.
like, did anyone else have an office, and when you went into it, there was like they scanned your forehead to see if you were too hot, but obviously just 20 minutes into the office, so clearly you were too hot, and then they made you sit there for half an hour till you cool down. Just me. Yeah, it's like. But yeah, so trying to get that right, and it was at Celsius or Fahrenheit because we never know with Star Trek.
No.
I did think about making a question there, Ruth, but there was too many messy points there. I skipped it.
So,
Anything from the
couple of little
act?
things.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't really see there, but apparently all that text, like you can look at it in high res, it has nothing to do with like the picture or the headline. I think when they made it, they didn't really think that you'd ever be able to look that closely at it. This at the something conference, all our government found themselves.
Yeah. There at this conference, all our governments found themselves in transitive agreement
Doesn't really.
It's really
regarding this
boring.
undertaking, arrangements for dealing with portions and designates between the
Yeah,
regulations
okay.
Anyway,
and further improvised.
It doesn't have anything to do with
Shut
it.
up, Sean.
So Worf tells Riker that if they were in the cave, they would have turned to dust. That's not true. Even in a dry environment, there would still be skeletal remains, or even if it's humid, there would still be things like their communicators, equipment. The glass that Guinan was preparing. Do you know anything about the glass, Sean? I know what you like with your props and your cups and glasses.
No, I don't have that one. Go on.
So it's actually from an old product which used to be, there's actually, you can still buy them. It's called an uncandle, and this bottom section, the column, is supposed to be filled with water, and then the top section is filled with like an oil and has a wick, and it's like a liquid candle. It can be like a scented oil if you want it to, but you can still buy them online. An uncandle. When Data's talking to Jack, he says "Gunner." He does it because he's imitating Jack, but I guess it just, I don't know. It begs the question of, Data saying I can't use contractions, or I cannot use contractions, but it makes it sound like it's more just an optional thing that he prefers not to, and he could if he chose to. When he's reading the paper there, when you see it from the other side, the top right corner there flops down, and you can see that the other pages in between are all blank. They're just filler to make it look like a fat newspaper. And that's it, I think, for me. Yes.
Wow,
I was just
that's
going to
a lot.
say, August the 11th, 1893 was a Friday, because I just looked it up. And the other thing I was going to say was, there was a thing a few years ago where you could get alcohol and you could vaporize it. Like they kind of, it was a little kind of Bunsen burner thing. They put vodka in it and you would kind of inhale it as steam as opposed to drinking. They kind of played around with it for a few years. So it was something that they did. It didn't take off, but it's something that's possible. Because the boiling point of alcohol is lower than the boiling point of water. So if you eat it to about 80 degrees, you're getting most of the alcohol, pretty much.
Answers to the last question, Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. So she is making a Sarzak aperitif, and the D-man lifts an anvil. And
we got 6 A's and 6 anvils.
Yeah.
Shall I talk through the other answers?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So tzatziki is a type of Greek dip, like cucumber and
it's cucumber and yogurt with a bit of dill and garlic. Yeah.
A tsunami is a big wave that's caused by and tsunkatsi is the one I was most excited by, because that's a reference to Voyager when 7 of 9 gets forced to fight in this kind of martial arts tournament thing.
Kickboxing tournament against Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Yeah, that's
and The Rock's in it. It's awesome. I love that episode.
Like, and he comes out, and because at the time,
does the rock
UPN,
thing, doesn't he, where he does his rock
he does
pose
the eyebrow.
He does his eyebrow, the fishhook eyebrow, and they had the rights to the wrestling at the time. UPN, the network they made up that didn't last. They launched it with Voyager, it didn't work out, but there was a cross promotional thing.
I remember one time when I was watching it, and I said, to my other half, like, "Oh, look at this episode," and he was like, "What? How comes The Rock is in Star Trek?" He just couldn't believe it. It's so funny.
I don't think he has any lines. He just comes out and does the eyebrow. Oh, he might have one line. It's like, "I'll beat you up" or something. I can't remember.
I'm spinning the wheel.
Spinny.
Cool.
Andrew.
Armandrew
gets the points.
Nice.
Well done, Andrew. We're into the final act of the first episode.
Lovely.
Can you believe it?
And then we got to do it all
We're doing
again.
all right.
And then we got to do it all again. At a reception, Samuel Clemens is holding court on Alfred Russel Wallace's theories about the Earth, and Guinan's wearing a period costume and seems to disagree with Samuel. He thinks man has only been around for a fraction of Earth's time because it's taken Earth this long to be ready for us. Data arrives and asks to speak to Guinan. He ignores the doorman and approaches Guinan, but Guinan doesn't seem to know him. Data says, "But we know each other. We're from the ship together, the Enterprise." And Guinan's like, "Is that a clipper?" Data's like, "No, it's a starship." Guinan quickly takes him outside. And she's like, "Oh yes, of course, yeah, yes." Quickly, Data outlines the whole scenario that it's from the future. That's time travelers and they're killing humans, and he's gonna get whatever. And Guinan's like, "Okay." She just completely rose with it. First, she thinks maybe her dad sent Data, like, to bring her back because she's like, run away from home or whatever. But no. However, the whole time they're having this conversation, Clemens is eavesdropping. Something he admits is not a gentlemanly activity, but the act is done. Back in the future in the cavern on Davidia 2, the away team are placing emitters when Picard joins them, which surprises them. He orders Worf back to the bridge to ensure the security of the Enterprise, and Worf reluctantly agrees. They enter the field and Geordi does some jiggery pokery, and they see the aliens with the orifices in their heads. Where's the aliens with the orifices in their heads? There they are. Troy is getting the imprint of an echo of life coming from the device in the middle of the cave because the people energy in it died in terror. Just then, some aliens appear in a flash of light and deposit the latest round of life energy that they have sucked out of humans. One of the aliens is carrying a snake on a stick that appears to open the timey-wimey hole, which they enter, and the crew follow them. And it's to be continued. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, we might need a few questions here.
It's question time again.
Sorry, go on, Martha.
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. All right, I'll read out the questions and then everyone can talk.
Yeah, I'm just commenting.
I think Tavi's on a delay. It
Yeah,
seems like
bit.
when we ask you something, there's about a 10-second delay, and then we think you're not talking, and then when we talk, it's a bit awkward. But yeah,
sorry, Tavi.
we'll try and give you time.
You still need a little laptop. So question 5. What ship does Guinan think the Enterprise is? A. Catamaran. B. Cutter. C. Clipper. D. Corsair. And the bonus question. What part of Data's anatomy does Guinan touch of our fully functional android, only to apologize?
I've got to answer the questions. Maz, anything from the final scene of the...
Yes, mostly about Mark Twain. So Jerry Hardin had never played Mark Twain before, but became so enamored with the character that he actually created a one-man touring show all about him.
Yeah.
There were actually some complaints about his voice and how he kind of depicted the voice.
I find it a bit annoying in this episode.
Yeah, well, apparently there was... I think I've got it in my part 2 notes actually, but apparently there was never really any recordings of Mark Twain's voice, but there was a recording of a neighbor of his doing an impression of him, and that's the closest thing that anybody's got. And apparently the voice that Jerry does is very similar to that, so they think he must have done his research, because that was the closest you can actually get to mimicking him.
Yeah, he is doing a kind of a Kentucky Southern gentleman, I do declare kind of thing. So yeah, it is a real accent. People do talk like that. So maybe he did.
And Jerry Hardin also played Radu in a TNG episode When the Bow Breaks, and Dr. Neria in Voyager episode Emanations.
Yeah.
So also previously, Mark Twain was played on stage by a guy called Hal Holbrook, and coincidentally, Holbrook and Hardin have both played characters known by the codename Deep Throat. With Hardin in the X-Files. Do you remember Deep Throat in the X-Files?
Yeah, that was that guy.
Good character.
Yeah.
X-Files was fantastic.
What else? Picard quotes Mark Twain in Star Trek First Contact. So that's just another little foreshadowing type thing.
They also see some of his books in the background of Picard as well. Do you have that? Sorry, did I jump over you?
No, sorry, what? He's got what?
I said in some of the shots of Picard, there's some Mark Twain books in the background. So Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens says to him, if you want to learn about me, read my books. Everything who me is there,
he does,
and in
doesn't he?
Picard in the
Wow.
background, there's actually
That's a nice bit of
photos and books
continuity.
of Mark Twain. So they worked it into the the bigger thing.
And apparently the idea of him being in a white suit was something that he did only on occasion for dramatic effect. It wasn't necessarily something that he wore all the time. It seems to some people that the away team might have been illogical in that they had Councillor Troy and Dr. Crusher helping to set up engineering equipment rather than having the expert engineers down there. But I'm guessing, being that they were trying to send them back into the past, and because Councillor Troy could detect these energy lives of people and stuff, and because Crusher's a doctor, they chose them not for their engineering skills, but because they knew what the away mission was going to lead to.
Well,
You think they would have taken some security people with them, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that was another point. No security personnel other than Worf. And
if they'd taken some red shirts, though, they wouldn't have survived. So they were probably better just to take the main characters. Yeah. It's usually safer.
Everybody in everybody was like, no, I'm not going. No, you go. No, I don't want to go.
Yeah. Plot armor, basically.
It's one of the few times that the phrase "beam me up" is used, because Worf says it when he's asked to return to the Enterprise.
He does. He says "beam me up." I laughed when he said that. I was like, "Oh my god, someone actually said
it." The beacons that were used for the force field McCavern were last seen in power play, and before the Davidians are seen, Data describes them as lacking eyes. But when we finally see them, it does look like they've got eyes. They're like, you can see the shape of them and like little thin bricks in the middle. So yeah, and that was it. What am I?
If we ever get to DS9, we have to get to Data Oda, and the fact that when he's a puddle, he still senses everything that's around him. So why does he need eyes? Can he not just see out of every orifice of his body? But we'll get to that when we come to it. And we might as well move on to the questions because we've had enough time. So, so the ship was a cutter. Sorry, was it cutter or clipper? I'm after losing one of my
Clipper.
It was
Clipper. Excuse me. Thank you. And Guinan touches his schnoz, his big Jewish schnoz. He goes straight for it, and she goes, "Sorry." But he's got gets a big bit of phallic energy off his big juice now. So
so it's just Stu Plum and Tavi for the spinning wheel.
I said face.
Stu Plum and Tavi, is it?
Monty, is face acceptable? It was his nose that she goes
I was
for.
thinking about here.
Face would be acceptable. Who said face?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We'll.
That would be Ruth.
Ruth is in the spin.
So it's Stu Plum, Ruth, and Tavi.
Yeah. And Tavi, if you've got anything you want to say, now's your time. We'll give you a moment.
It's Stu Plum.
I know. I was just thinking, who to step? With the different intros when different people come in. So I think Andrew and Ashley are the only ones that don't have specialized greetings for. I got one for Ash now. But I don't have one for Drew yet. I still haven't found the right one. You got to come by more often, Andrew.
Yeah.
Well, it's quite easy. Just go Drew.
That's an option. That's an option. He's just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
You don't have to go with it. It's just an option.
No, you don't. Fair
okay. Enough. I'm just going to get rid of some of these tabs because I'm about to create a whole load more, and my browser might just explode by the time I. Right, that'll do.
A little bit.
Okay, so.
You can get rid of all the non-data tabs.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome to the Vaults. Tonight we're putting into the Vaults Star Trek The Next Generation episode Time's Arrow Part 2. Hooray!
Oh, we've got to do scoring and everything else first, haven't we?
Oh, crap. I mean...
And award the season
yes.
medal.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Okay. How can I
do all that first.
How could I have forgotten all that malarkey, eh? Jeez.
I
Okay,
don't
just ask no one to comment on that reporter or where else you might have seen him, because there could be a question on that.
Oh, there was one other thing about the Deep
okay.
Throat guy. What's he called? I can't remember his name.
Deep Throat?
Jerry Hardin? No, yeah,
yeah.
something like that.
Just before he was on TNG for the first time, he made a film. Actually, no, it was after when he was on Roundabout Breaks, and it was 1991. So just before he was on TNG this season, he was in a film called Plymouth.
Oh,
Which
In relation to the HMS Plymouth, or
no, it was about a town called Plymouth.
Oh.
That suffered
Never heard of it.
It suffered a massive industrial accident, and the town became uninhabitable. So the whole of the town moved to the moon, to a mining colony. It's like a B movie budget sci-fi thing.
cool.
So yeah. Okay.
Wookie ass is impersonating the guy in the X-Files called Deep Throating. Yeah, I guess it is.
That's a triple X Files you've probably seen on the top shelf of some DVD rental place. Triple X Files with deep throating.
And he's saying Jerry Hardon sounds like a German adult movie star from the 80s.
A little bit.
It's Hardin, but yeah.
Okay, give me the all important scores. I know Tavi's going to be chomping at the bit for this.
Okay, so there are 4 people in joint first place with 400.
There are 4 people!
Points. 4 people. That would be Tavikins, Stu Plum, Andrew, and Mazza. So we get 8 points each on the
8
scoreboard.
points.
Basically, everyone
So-
who got a spin.
So that was who was that? Tavikins.
There are 4 people.
Stu and myself.
Oh, you all got. All you top
Oh,
people.
let me see if anybody wants bingo.
And then next.
And then only 10 points behind was Ruth with 6 points. And then 20 points behind Ruth was Monty Ban with 5 points.
Oh, didn't I put Ruth's already on? Didn't I? I thought Ruth was one of the top ones, wasn't he? Was she? No?
I think you put me instead of Andrew.
Oh, was it Andrew?
Oh,
was it?
shit. Sorry. It's because I wrote your name down. Yeah.
Oh,
It
I'm all
was supposed to be
confused now.
Andrew.
Okay, so
Sorry,
that was-
Andrew should get 8 points. Ruth should get 6 points.
Okay, right. So that's 36, and that's 186. Okay, and then what was I? 4 points was it? I think.
Monty Ban was 5 points.
5 points. Okay, that's 83. There we go. It didn't actually change the overall score of the overall positions. And our champion, our crown champion this year, for this
Season 5 winner.
is Tavikins.
Yay!
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Well done, Tabby. Well done. Right, now if you want to score the episode then, part 1, let us know what you think it is in chat. What would you give this episode out of 10? I'm not going to give you guys much time to decide. I'm going to count you down from
get it in
5,
quick.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Ah.
8766.
8766.
So we're averaging
That's
at
fairly
7.
consistent. I thought it was a good episode. You know, it was a good opener. They had some, interesting sets and stuff, and there was quite a lot of technobabble, which, in terms of other people's reception of it, like Jerry Taylor, Ronald D. Moore, said they didn't like the amount of technobabble in it, so they tried to reduce it in part 2. But yeah, Joe Manosky said it was a bit of a mess, but happy with the Mark Twain stuff. I don't know. The people on the production staff seem to have a lukewarm reception to it, but I think fan-wise, I think people generally like it a bit more than that in
Yeah,
the world of the fandom.
I completely dislike the Mark Twain stuff. I think the episode would be much better if he wasn't in it at all. He doesn't need to be there. It's like when Abraham Lincoln turns up in the original series. It's unnecessary and pointless. It's just cheesy and it doesn't do anything for me. So I probably would have scored it. It could have scored an 8, but if they got rid of all the Mark Twain stuff and just made it and the Jack London stuff, it could have been a lot. It could have been tweaked to an 8 if they'd fix those couple of things. And Wookie says, in all fairness, he never had any real competition. Wook, we have a new season now. We're starting again fresh.
Yeah.
So you want to compete? By all means, compete. We want new winners. And Monty never could have won because he only started on episode 16 or something. But he's absolutely out to win this season, and I fully expect him to do it.
Was Ash say loud noises? We're making loud noises for him. Yeah, I mean, yeah. What was the average of the audience score then? Was it 8?
We got a 7, an 8, and a 9, so that would be 8.
I give it a 9. I love it, but it's got time travel in it, so it always gets a good score for me.
Yeah,
it's good. I mean, I was between a 7 and 8. To be fair, it was difficult for me to choose, but yeah.
The thing I really liked about
pretty
it is
consistent scores from everyone, really.
The thing I really quite liked about it was Mark Twain. I liked the actor's take on Mark Twain. I thought it was really kind of authentic and gave it like an authentic twang.
That's the thing that put me off, to be honest. But each to their own.
Each to their own. That's it. So yeah.
The beauty of it.
It put it at a roughly a high-ish score for the season. Obviously, quite a bit below the big scores, but I suppose it was average.
Bit of a drop from Inner Light.
It was a bit of a drop, but higher than most of the first half of the season. Yeah.
Cool.
So,
I thought this episode it didn't rank so high with me because it did seem really deep to me. However, the cheesiness was also a little bit justified because if Guinan is on Earth listening, like she's implying, who are you there to listen to? So obviously it would have to be a big person or a literary person or somebody of importance. So whether it was Mark Twain or somebody else, she came there to listen to somebody. And with it being California and that time period being a really high tension point in the United States as far as like racial issues and everything, and you got both Mark Twain and whatnot, it wouldn't be too far off that she wants to hear from Mark Twain or about Mark Twain. However, I think it's really dumb later on in Picard where they make it seem like she's this downtrodden, beaten person living in the year, what was it, 2020 something, and now she's broken. I'm like, bitch, you were there in freaking the 1800s. You're acting like the worst thing you've seen is recently. I'm like, what? But I did like I like.
Go on, sorry.
I liked Mark Twain. Oh yeah, I liked Mark Twain. I thought a lot of the time travel and the techno babble was a bit too much, as in it was all coincidental and everything happened to work out, and then we're gonna take all of our senior staff because that's what the plot needs for it to be a banger for the end of the season. So I'm like, you could have written
works
a little,
fine.
I think you didn't have to take everybody there, but I could understand they just wanted shenanigans.
That works fine in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because in Star Wars is the Force. So the Force brings everyone together, and there's a unifying force behind the universe causing all these coincidences. But it doesn't work in Star Trek, and you're absolutely right. And yeah, you happen to go back into the past, and you happen to meet Mark Twain. You just, it's... if you look at Past Tense Part 1 and 2, which Picard Season 2 was roughly based on, they do a much better job of time travel past. Which, weirdly... Actually, I'll just ask you this, Mandy. The Bell riots, as mentioned in Past Tense Part 1 and 2, do you remember when they happened?
No.
August of next year.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. That just freaks me out. It's like, yeah. Anyway.
Also, if you talk about freaking out, this freaks me out, right? This thought. Okay, Mark Twain died in 1910.
Yeah.
Right, which was 56 years before Star Trek first aired on TV. So between Mark Twain passing away, 56 years passed, and Star Trek first aired on television. That was 57 years ago. So Star Trek first aired on television closer to when Mark Twain died than today.
I was tempted to make this a question, but I didn't. When Mark Twain was born, there was a comet, and when Mark Twain died, the same comet was in the sky again. Anyone know what comet was?
Halley's.
Yeah,
Halley's comet. Yeah, he actually he lined up perfectly with one rotation of Halley's comet.
That would have been a good question
I
for
had a bit of an
Act 5
obsession
for
with
Act 4.
Yeah. Well, I didn't put it in because
Put
I
it in my
thought it
trivia.
was too hard.
It's not a big question.
Yeah. Anyway, should we get on with this episode?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I need to put some lights on.
Yeah, you're getting darker.
But he actually wrote in his memoir, I came up with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it. It'd be the greatest disappointment of my life if I don't go out with Halley's Comet. So yeah, he was.
I'm just
exactly
gonna get another
right.
drink and some ice.
Yep. Okay.
So whatever the period was, it was from 1835 to 1909 because of time of massive.
Okay. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah. So 74 years. Sorry. Move on.
Shut up, Sean.
Time's Arrow Part 2. Here we go. It's episode 1 of season 6. Production number 40276-227. And it first aired in the US on the 21st of September 1992. We're no longer roughly in sync. We've had a jump. So they've jumped in time. It is the 126th episode to be both produced and released in TNG. The story, obviously, was originally by Joe Minosky, as we said before, is the 11th of 16 after part 1, and the teleplay this time was by Jerry Taylor. This was her 12th of 17 TNG writing credits, and directed again by Les Landau, his 29th of 34. Yeah, go on.
So just before you go on, the first UK air date was the 21st of June 1995. So we've synced up again.
We've synced up with the UK dates.
So we're yeah, the UK dates. So it aired exactly 28 years ago today in the UK. Or sorry, yeah, that's right. Sorry,
that's right. So in the teaser, fudge. In the teaser, the episode opens with Samuel Clemens walking the streets of San Francisco, telling reporter how he has recently learned there's time travelers among them. Right here in San Francisco, no doubt with nefarious intent. The discussion ends with Clemens seeing Data emerging from a building. As he follows Data, he unknowingly passes two well-dressed individuals, one carrying a bag and the other a cane with a snake on it. And that's the end of your teaser. Question time.
So, okay. In the background of the opening shot, we see the name of what shop. Is it A, Rod's Roddenberries, B, I.S. Bare Necessities, C, Or More Grocery, D, Minosky's Menswear, or E, Taylor's Tailors? And sorry, we have a bonus question as well. I'll throw that in. The reporter actor Alexander Enberg later on to play what twins across TNG and Voyager? So he was the son of Jerry Taylor, the casting person. So he got a couple of roles, but he plays two different Vulcan characters with very similar names. One in Lower Decks in TNG and one in Voyager. And if nobody gets both, I'll accept one each.
It's going to be a guess for the first one. I know the answer to the second one.
I don't.
Anyway, I wasn't quite here for the beginning bit. But yeah, they found breaking this story quite difficult because, as with a lot of the two-parters, they start it off and have no idea how they're going to finish it. So it took quite a while tossing the story around to figure out what they were going to do with it. Rene Ashavara said we boxed ourselves into a corner. They wanted to reduce the technical babble, as I mentioned. They had this idea at one point of making it a much longer time period, that they were stuck there for like 6 months or something. And one of the, what I thought rather charming ideas was the fact that they would meet at a cafe run by Picard, and there was a running joke about how bad his food was. Obviously they decided, just for budget and time wise, to not sort of drag it on as much as that. So Samuel Clemens mentions about, he wrote a book about time travel that was referring to a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, which was published in 1889, 4 years before this episode. What else? And we've already mentioned about the fact that the outdoor scenes were different, and about Sam Clement, about his voice. So yeah, okay. Yeah.
I do think his voice sounds like the Grand Nagus or something like that. It's really put on, kind of like, "Hello, Quark. Yeah, I'm an old man, you know." It's like, oh.
Yeah, as I said, it's kind of that southern country gentleman. I do declare. You know,
Yeah.
that's what he's going for.
He could have toned it down just a little bit, though, and still had that southern gentleman voice, but just...
Yeah, I mean, Tavi, I'm gonna try and bring you in here. I mean, you grew up in South Carolina. Did people talk like that? Did you meet people like that talk like that? I mean, that's, yeah, she's nodding. So yeah, I guess people sound like that where she comes from.
Yeah, it was. I was saying earlier that they found these.
That's not an accent. That's not an accent that anyone uses recently. So it's the southern equivalent of speaking ye old English.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it's
but
not how
this
they
is
would talk
this
there.
is 150
That's how they
years
would
in the
talk back
past.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But like really
Yeah.
old people, like you're like when you were young, like your well, not your grandparents, but other people's grandparents would have sounded a bit like that.
So it was. There were recordings of somebody called William
That would sound a
Gillette,
bit like
who
that.
was a neighbor of Clements, impersonating him,
Yeah.
which is what this voice sounds like, apparently. But you don't know. I mean, William Gillette might have been over-egging the impersonation, or it might have been bang on. Who knows? But we think, Hardin did his homework and based this character off those recordings.
I think Kellogg sounded quite a lot like that as well. You know, the guy behind Kellogg's.
Yeah, Ash's peoples are from the South, so
My great grandmother sounded like that. Cool.
Okay, so it's a legitimate accent. I mean, I could throw some Irish accents at you that are absolutely ridiculous, and you just laugh. So yeah, I can understand some of them are, you know, embarrassing almost. But yeah, it is what it is.
Answers to the questions. Was it C? Are more groceries?
Yeah, we've only got 4 answers, but
we're moving on.
Ruth, where's yours, Ruth?
Ruth's
gone.
I'm gonna give it 10 seconds.
She's gone.
Yeah, no. Moving on. C for.
She's AFK.
Was it Are more groceries?
Yeah. Or I don't know if that's Ronald D. Moore, the producer, or Ronald B. Moore, the
effects
makeup guy. But
guy.
the effects guy. But either way, there was an R. Moore there. Yeah, I did like I receiving bare necessities and Rod's Roddenberries and Minosky's men who are tailors. But I made them all up. Or more is the correct answer. And yes, it was Tavi got it slightly wrong, but it's Toric and Boric. They're for what's the word? Royalty reasons. They had to create a new Vulcan to be on Voyager, but in like beta canon, they're twins.
Yeah.
So Toric and Borg. So Tavi, Mazza, and Tavi and Mazza. That's just 2 of them that got that right.
The wheel looking like a Pokeball. I'm spinning the wheel.
Ashment, I remember being 4 years old, mimicking the accent of a great grandmother just jumped across the table and slammed me in the bed.
Yay.
Well done, Maz.
Ash, I can understand. I don't speak like where I come from, so yeah, I can absolutely understand. While I respect the fact of a culture of a place they come from, some of the things they say are just stupid. Sorry, Ruth, you missed the spin. You missed the question.
Act 1. In a mall
Ruth, you're on
somewhere in
mute.
San Francisco, Crusher and Riker are investigating cholera victims. Beverly is dressed as a lady while Will is a policeman. Beverly scans the bodies and finds that they are completely devoid of electrochemical energy, so they realize that the aliens are using the disease to cover up their killing. They meet up in a guest house where they are renting a room or an apartment. As they discuss how they are going to find the shape-shifting aliens, Mrs. Carmichael arrives for this week's rent. I guess if she's asking for this week's rent, they've been here like a couple of weeks already. They've not been
Yeah,
here.
I was wondering that.
I think there's a time gap between the two episodes, isn't there? Because they just sort of jump straight into looking at these dead bodies. How did they get there?
How did he get the police uniform, or how did they build up all the stuff that they've got? It's like they've been there a while. All the while, Worf's orbiting like this planet for weeks.
They did a magic trick where they separated the thumb and they just went, "Look at this." Made lots of money. Who knows?
Yeah.
I can just imagine.
Sorry,
go on, Ruth.
I've missed the first question of the season, haven't I? It's not a good start.
No, yeah.
Luckily, it's only the 20-pointer. So.
Good.
It's small
okay.
points for the.
As it's literally midsummer, I hadn't sorted out the lighting. I forgot that it was actually dark.
The lighting is a bit of a struggle at this time of year. Absolutely.
Well, especially today, because it's the summer solstice. It's the longest day of the year.
Is that today?
South Coast, so
it is. Yeah. Oh. Well, technically it could be the 22nd or 23rd, depending on the year. But yeah, basically, it's the
happy
solstice.
solstice, everyone.
21st.
It's all downhill from here.
Yeah.
Yep. So I just imagine.
Happy birthday! Miss you, Mom.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Tabs, Mom.
Happy birthday, Tabs.
Tabs, Mom. Take a drink.
Everybody, if you want to wish Tabby's mum happy birthday, put it in chat.
Or you can click the heart.
Yeah, click the heart. Yeah, or even the like button. Either way, it all works. I do imagine that they've been there for like 3 weeks or a month or something, and all this time, Worf's just been stood on the bridge that whole time with his finger on the torpedo button, just waiting for an order.
Well, the way they depict time travel is that they're in sync. That they're 5 minutes in the past is the same as 5 minutes in the future, that they're in some sort of temporal, nexus, and that's not normally how time travel is done, but maybe it makes sense. Because we'll take 5 more minutes, but 5 more minutes for something that happened 500 years in the past doesn't really make sense. So, yeah, they were a bit screwy Louie with the whole time travel concepts in this episode. Not for the first time I said it.
The landlady reminded Wookiee of Data's housekeeper from All Good Things.
That's because she is.
Is she?
Is she?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
I did think
I didn't know that.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Pamela Kosh makes another appearance in All Good Things as Jessel, housekeeper to Data, an equally cantankerous woman in another time travel adventure. Yeah. Correct. Well done, Wookie.
Well, she's Mrs. Carmichael, which is a Scottish surname, and I presume she's trying to do an Irish accent because it sounds kind of Irish.
I thought she was supposed to be Northern English, like in this one.
Well, she's got a
She
Scottish
says Thursday,
surname,
like you would.
She didn't sound Irish to me.
Yeah, okay. I guess we all have different ears. But she said, well, I don't think she sounded Irish either, but she was leaning in that direction. But certainly, so it's a Scottish surname, and I don't know what she was going for, but she didn't hit it anyway.
Mrs. Doyle, even though there was no Mrs. Doyle at that point.
It's a week Thursday.
It's a week Thursday.
The rent is due on 1 o'clock on a Wednesday, and it's a week Thursday, and it's bad. It's not right. Whatever accent she's doing, it's not obvious, and therefore it's wrong.
So it is 1 o'clock on a Thursday, and as Picard should know, The rent is always due at 1 o'clock on the Wednesday. Picard spins a yarn about production of Midsummer Night's Dream. Mrs. Campbell's not having it, though, and she wants her rent by tomorrow. In Data's hotel room, the bellboy is being a bad bellboy and letting Mr. Clemens into the room. He's pretending to be helping Data with contract for Data's engine. The bellboy pitches the idea of the story of his life and asks Clemens if he would want to write it, but Clemens tactfully declines, suggesting that there is no better person to write your life story than oneself, and encourages him to follow his dreams. And as Clemens hustles him out of the room, he tells him not to forget his name is Jack London. And of course, Jack London is a famous writer.
A right person. Well, not so much in the UK or Ireland, but I don't know. Tabby, do you know who Jack London was growing up?
No.
Okay. Not that famous, apparently. All right, moving on.
Well, he was supposedly one of the... he was one of the most famous writers of his time, and the first American writer to become internationally famous. The first internationally famous American writer, supposedly.
It goes back to my depressing point that 150 years after you die, no matter how famous you are, basically nobody, with very few exceptions, nobody knows they ever existed.
Well, this is a
He wrote
Wikipedia
Call of
page
the Wild
about him.
and White Fang.
White Fang, White Fang. That's big book. He also wrote some science fiction, so probably why he was included here. Clemens investigates Data's contraption and pulls a bit of it off, and then gets disturbed by the returning Data and Guinan, so he goes and hides in a closet. Data and Guinan are talking about the cavern, and it's going to be difficult to enter it because it's located in an army base. Data notices the missing piece and realizes it was Clemens. Data points out that prolonged contact to this missing piece would be toxic to humans, and then they hear something drop in the closet and find Clemens hiding. And that is the end of Act 1.
Oh, that's me, so. So where are we? Question 1, Act 1 question. Where does Picard say they performed previously? A, New York, Paris, Peckham. B, Gwenville and North Haverbrook. Boy, did that put them on the map. And C, London, Paris, and I will put in the second before you go ahead. Yeah, you can talk all you like then. Where did Samuel Clemens think Data was from? Oh crap! I made a shit of that. Sorry, I made a shit of that. I'll put in the next question. Ignore the man behind the curtain. Where did Samuel Clemens think Data was from? What he mentions a country. He said, "Where are you from again? Is it Bratislava?" He doesn't say Bratislava, but what country did he mention?
Sorry, as well as Tavi, we're getting a lot of breakup from you as well tonight, Sean. I don't know why. I think it might be my end, but getting some breakup. So apologies for that, everyone at home.
Apologies. My broadband provider was digging up a trench. Like I went out at lunch to go to Aldi, and I saw them digging up a trench behind my house. And my broadband disconnected on Tuesday. We kind of had flooding and heavy rain, so yeah, it's probably something to do with that. Apologies.
I really don't know the first answer. I've just gone for a guess.
I will say he claims to be a Frenchman, and the country that Samuel Clemens asks him about is a country where they speak French. I'll give you that as a clue.
Anyway, trivia and stuff. So in the opening scene, they're in the hospital, and Crusher says, "I don't understand why all these people are dying. Cholera just isn't that virulent." But in actual fact, in the last half of the 19th century, it caused one of the worst epidemics, killing tens of millions of people and having about a 50% mortality rate. So saying it wasn't really that bad was a bit of a mistake.
Well, she just didn't do her research, Bev, did she?
Yeah, I know. Maybe it was just a bit too distant history
Yeah.
for her.
What if you think? What if she's thinking like from the point of view of current day medicine? It's like it's not that bad,
Yeah.
and you know
Yeah,
they
but even
forget
now,
that, you know,
true.
the episode before the 49ers coughing and touching people, with someone living through
Well,
Corona,
back in that
like just
time,
listening to him cough and touching people had me crawling up my chair. Like, no!
people
back
shouldn't
in
be
that
dying of
time,
cholera now. People shouldn't be dying of
Mm.
cholera now. The only
No.
people that die of cholera are people that are malnourished to start with. And
Mm.
if most of us get cholera, we survive it. We just have a bit of diarrhea and get over it.
But back in that day, you know, surgeons went from one patient to another without washing their hands, without changing their clothes. You know, they really didn't understand infection control in the way we do in the modern era. So yeah, well, she says that it makes sense because the standards of the time the modern standards are very different.
Okay, answers to the questions, Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the answer, where did Picard say they performed previously? He said London, Paris, and Milan. Oh, Milan. And where did Samuel Clemens think Data was from? He thought he was from Switzerland. And yeah, I have Tavi and Monty with Switzerland. And
And
does-
me.
And
oh,
yeah,
sorry, Ruth. Excuse me,
and
Ruth.
Maz, Tavi, Monty, and Ruth.
Sorry, I looked at that too quickly. Does anyone want to guess what New York Paris Peckham was? Actually, I can give you a very, very obvious clue.
Oh,
Oh,
Peckham.
so-
Yeah, Peckham was where
Yeah.
Only Fools and
Only
Horses
Fools
were
and
Yeah.
based.
Horses.
Only Fields and Horses, yeah.
Yeah.
And does anyone know what Brockway, Ogdenville, and North Haverbrook was?
Nope.
That was the monorails in the monorail episode of The Simpsons.
That is a deep cut. That
Knew they
is-
rang a bell from somewhere.
I've sold monorails to Brockway, Ogdenville, and North Haverbrook, and by God, did I put them on the map?
I am spinning the wheel.
You even made the joke, and Mazza still fell for it.
Nice.
Come on, stop.
Oh, yeah!
Oh! Honda.
That makes up for missing question one, right?
Yes.
Almost.
Very good.
New
Ruth.
season, new champion.
Monty was Monty was recommending possible points for the bingo because I feel that somebody should win something,
Yeah, 10 points for
but
a
I can't
bingo
think of
one.
anything cool. So maybe we're getting into like close calls here and
Is anybody close?
It's much
So,
harder
but that's
to
up
keep
to
track of
Mon-
the
if you to
thing,
bingo.
whatever.
Well,
Okay.
I've
I
already
keep
mentioned
track
Red
of the
Dwarf.
cards, so even if some people lose,
Is it okay if I finish my trivia and stuff?
Oh, did you not finish? Sorry, I thought we were
No,
done on that
that's
one.
all right.
Apologies.
So one observation is Data arrived and was able to acquire money, room in a hotel, fine clothes, and numerous supplies for building some futuristic contraption within about 2 hours of getting there. And yet Picard, Geordi, Crusher, everybody else combined haven't been able to find any way to make any money or ends meet in order to be able to pay their rent. You think with their collective intellect and knowledge, like they would be able to do
He's
something.
Data.
Um,
He's Data.
That is awesome, though.
They don't even suggest to the that Data pays their rent because clearly he's got lots of money. So yeah, that seems a bit funny. We talked a bit about Jack London. And also the bellhop Jack. He mentions about wanting to visit Alaska, but apparently Alaska didn't become a state of the union until 1959, which was
Nearly
about
a century
60
later,
years
yeah.
later. It says here
Well,
there's no way anyone would know about Alaska for another 130 years. It's not 130. It's more like
No, that'd be
It's
now.
the
know
know
or
about
something.
Alaska.
Yeah.
I
So,
mean, it
anyway.
existed. It just
knew it
they,
was
they
there.
sold it.
Didn't they?
They sold it for 50 cents an acre, but even though it was 80 years ago, that's still a ridiculous price, even though it's a wasteland. And then they found, all sorts of oil and stuff under it, and gold and all sorts of stuff.
Canada must be kicking themselves.
Yeah, like they basically bought it for a pittance. If you live in Alaska, they give you money every year just to live there. But at the same time, some places you live, the only way, there's no roads. You have to like get a flight in and a flight out, and everything you buy, like say a muffin or something, is like $10 because you just multiply everything by 5 because it has to come by plane. So
There's probably roads. It's just below like several meters of snow.
no. The capital Juneau is not part of any sort of motorway network. It actually, the only way to get in and out of it is by plane.
It was a joke because it was cold.
Sorry.
Anyway, Samuel Clemens hears Data tell Guinan about the Enterprise, and Mark Twain wrote for a newspaper called the Territorial Enterprise, which was often referred to as the Enterprise. So just coincidental there. This two-parter is special for the amount of time that Whoopi Goldberg was allotted to star in it. Normally, she only does shooting for 1 day for her bits in an episode, but this was like about 3 or 4 days or something. They asked her specifically, could she find the time to do it, but she was happy to do so. And the final bit is that Marina Sirtis married Michael Lampert during the hiatus between the seasons, and Troy is noticeably a few shades darker because she went somewhere sunny for her honeymoon.
Oh, nice. I love the way in chat Ash and Wookie are talking, accusing each other of being Quebecers.
Well, I will say about Marina,
their
I mean,
conversation's quite funny.
She's British, but she has Greek blood, so she can take the sun if she needs to. But yeah, it is actually obvious that her skin color changed between seasons.
She's in San Francisco, though, right? So she's been there a few weeks. That would explain it.
Yeah, that actually, headcanon, you can explain that away.
Yeah, I mean, all of them have come from a starship to being in sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ash, it's one of my dreams to go to British Columbia and like travel across Canada. That would be great. That would be great. Okay, Act 2. Let's get a move on. Quite a big act, this one. Clemens questions them about Data's visit to the county assessor's office, and Data confirms that he has had a number of visits to that office. Clemens reels off all the other places Data's been visiting and tells him he gets around. Data replies that so does Mr. Clemens, it would have seemed. Clemens asks if the device he is working on has anything to do with time shifting, perchance. Data tries to explain it away as part of the engine for a horseless carriage, but Clemens isn't buying it. He thinks that they are up to no good, and he's determined to stop them. In the ward of the sisters, in the ward of the Sisters of Hope Infirmary, Picard is planting a device in a light. When Doctor questions what he's doing, he claims to be changing the burners to make them more quake-proof. The Doctor then tells Dr. Crusher, who is now dressed as a nurse, that he is going to a meeting, so she'll have to handle things herself. Geordi and Troy are also there pretending to visit family. Geordi can see triolic waves in the room, so believes the aliens have been here for at least the past 24 hours. Troy says one of the patients spotted a strange-looking doctor and nurse. So Geordi and Troy go off to look for them, whilst Crusher stays and helps the sick. How comes he's just wearing his visor out in public? Like, doesn't anybody question that looks strange?
He flips it on. He flips it on and off when there's nobody looking. Because when they have to run away, he has to quickly put it back on again so they can see where he's going.
Yeah, I guess he just hopes none of the patients there are awake enough to notice.
I think you can explain it away. You just go, I have a problem with my eyes and the shuttering of light or something. People don't know. Make something up.
Crusher then picks up some triolic waves on her tricorder and notices a strange doctor and nurse have appeared in the ward behind her. She goes to intercept them about the patient they seem interested in and notes he has an interesting cane. The nurse turns her handbag device to Beverly, But before she can press the suck your life out of you button, Riker and Geordi appear, and Geordi grabs the cane and punches the male-looking alien in the face. And Riker shoots the man in the penis with his phaser. The aliens don't like that, so disappear. I love that shot. Geordi's looking like going, ow.
I just wish they played up more that Beverly was pretending to be a nurse, because anyone is ever, I fully respect if you've gone through 7 or 8 years of medical PhD everything, to put yourself down as a nurse is like, it's not something that you would do.
She's been talked down to more by the doctor.
Yeah. In saying that, a lot of senior nurses know more than a lot of junior doctors, but at the same time, if you've done the work, be called a nurse is, it's not good.
Then Picard went from being a captain to being a maintenance guy, changing the light bulbs.
Yeah,
so,
they're
all taking a blow to their ego, right?
Somehow that annoys me less than making Crusher a nurse when she's a doctor.
I think because she's a woman, and they should have made more of it, that the doctor's male and he's talked down to her because she's just a woman, she's just a nurse.
Yeah, well, back then women couldn't be doctors, so exactly. Yeah, I get it. It was the early, I think Nightingale was born around that time, but certainly they probably could insert a line or two.
So Data, who's been studying his machine, notes that a change in its output when the aliens disappear, and studies a map and runs out of his hotel room. Come here. Back in the infirmary, a police officer arrives and Riker tries to explain, but the officer doesn't recognize Riker or believe anything he says. He takes an interest in the snake cane, so Riker informs him that he has every respect for law enforcement, but knocks him out with the palm of his hand. They then leg it outside, just as Data pulls up with a carriage, and they make their daring escape. It's pretty cool. You get a nice shot of Data riding around the corner.
Just hold on that shot right there.
Not the next shot.
We might need a mop under Tavi after that.
Unfortunately, it then skips to this shot as they leave, and that looks
really not.
Yeah,
a lot less like Data. And that's the end of the action.
Perfect stuff.
All right.
So,
I am sitting on an absorbent pillow, so no mopping for me.
Absorbent.
Okay,
right.
so question 2. What piece of equipment is Picard interfering with when the doctor comes in? A, gas lamp. B, gas light. C, gasoline can. D, gas crack altogether. And, sorry, I may have... this episode marked the first use of the New York Streets backlot. Name another. So just any episode of Star Trek in general where they use the backlot.
Okay.
I'll even accept the one where this happens as an answer. I'm going to be quite liberal with that. Sorry, Mazza, go ahead.
Oh, G's in chat and as the Underground Paradox. Nice to see you, G. So, in the original script, Guinan was going to be from a well-known Boston family, so they kind of cut that out of part 1. But then also in part 2, Samuel Clements was going to have checked her story and got a telegram from a relative, Judge Truman Williams, who said that he never heard of Guinan. So he's not only sort of going after Data, he was also poking holes in Guinan's backstory, but they cut that. Picard is changing whatever he's changing, and the doctor responds, there hasn't been an earthquake here in 30 years, but apparently there was an earthquake just a month previously on June 6th. This is set in August 1893. So there was one, and there was also dozens of earthquakes in the 30 years prior. So that was a bit of a non-historical factoid. Blah, 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 blah. Oh,
So
yes.
just comes in the chat. G Sarah's looking to come into
That's
the
here.
chat. Oh, there we are.
He's
Sorry.
here.
He's already here, Sean. He's here.
He is here.
Like
Evening,
a man in
everyone.
orthopedic shoes, I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Got 3 more to go. Each time an actor holding the snakehead case, snakehead moves too quickly, you see it wobble. It's kind of like rubbery, and the head of it wobbles when it gets sort of knocked out of the guy's hand. When the crew make their getaway, it's obviously a stuntman. We covered that. And there's also a guy who was supposed to have been a morgue attendant in Times Arrow Part 2. The scene was actually deleted, but he's still credited. And he appears again as a Bajoran clerk in Clueless, and also plays a burlesque show alien in Broken Bow Part 1. Is that Broken Bow Part 1? Is that Enterprise?
Yeah,
Yes.
Enterprise. The opening episode, yeah.
Ah, okay. There you go. I'm done. Sorry.
Wookie points out that Ruth and G are green lighting together. They're getting their green. They're getting the green on. Green army.
Borg.
Okay, well,
Yeah, bullshit.
everyone get your answers in, because I only have 2 so far. Sorry, G, please go on.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm just.
G? Anything?
What's that?
from you?
Sorry, what?
I don't know. Just any comments on the episode so far? You're new here, so we thought we'd give you time to talk.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was being asked a question. A. No, please. Times Arrow.
Yes.
Yes. Where are you up to? You've got
We're
into
on
the.
Act 3 of Episode 2, Part 2. Yeah. We're not that
That's
far.
way.
Yeah.
It's a new season to get yourself on the scoreboard.
Help
Yeah.
a 49er. Help a 49er. Help a 49er.
That one. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a cool episode. It's a really good double parter to end and start the season, I guess. But I really like, one thing that really stands out to me is I can't remember the name of the actor. Sean will probably jump in straight away. Guy who plays Mark Twain, and also plays Deep Throat in X-Files.
Yeah.
I don't know it off, but fair enough.
Yeah. Well,
There were some deep throating comments after we mentioned that earlier.
oh.
Triple X Files.
Sorry to bring that up again. Deep Throating.
Triple X Files.
Yeah. So, but he is like incredibly. He looks a hell of a lot like Mark Twain.
He does.
Yeah, he does.
The makeup is good. Yeah.
If you look at pictures of Mark Twain, he really looks like him. So that's the one thing I always remember. But no, this is a cool Data 2-parter as well.
Sorry, yeah, we had him earlier. Jerry Hardin is the name. Yeah, not to be confused with Jerry Hardon. Apparently, he's still alive. He'll be 94 in November.
Yeah, amazingly, he is still alive. Yeah, and the Mrs. Carmichael only died a couple of years ago, and she was in her 90s.
Yeah, she died last year. Yeah. I was looking at that earlier.
Some ropey scenes in it though.
There are. There's a lot of like jargony, technical babble. The way they tie this episode up at the end is all a little bit, hung together with string and tape. I think.
In retrospect, I think a lot of the staging, like the backstage in this, sort of also reminds me a little bit of TOS. You know, when they used to depict stuff in like Earth planets or in the past or something.
Yeah,
Every planet they go to that has some similarity to Earth.
Yes.
Yeah,
it sort of feels that very staged.
Yeah.
Because Desilu has all those back sets already.
I think they
and the Nazi uniforms.
Yeah, I think they did a better job in Part 1. I think the streets and the feel seemed to me more contemporary and more realistic, where this feels like cheap Paramount backlot type.
Yeah, I reckon at the
Because
time.
it was and it was.
Yeah.
I reckon at the time they probably used a lot of the budget on the effects for the time dilation and the aliens. That's where I think a lot of the budget went on. Because if you think about when this was aired, that was pretty good, like fantastic special effects for that day and age. Yeah, but again, that's another bit of this storyline that really stands out to me is that time dilation. I love that concept of, just moving a few points over and you're in a sort of kind of different dimension. I love it.
Yeah, me too. But it's a shame they weren't more consistent with how it actually works, though.
Yeah, it's a shame they kind of broke it just a few episodes after they established
and they kind
it.
of they break their own
They break
rules.
their own
But
thing,
I like that slight shift.
Yeah.
Now I'm somewhere else and somewhere else.
Okay, we've got answers. Have we got answers to the question, Sean?
I think everybody answered A.
Yeah. So the answer was, of course, gaslight.
I think
Everybody answered gas lamp.
No,
It's a lamp.
it wasn't gaslight. I was gaslighting you.
It was. I mean, it was a light. It was a lamp.
Yeah. Shut up.
I get it.
Technically, could have been
There we go. And name another. Sorry, back. I have to look through the answers.
another episode. So we've got
the
Voyager one where
one
they keep going back to the town on the holiday.
Yeah,
we've got the Sherlock episode where Moriarty becomes sentient, and two people said Far Beyond the Stars.
Yeah, Far Beyond the Stars is correct. The Voyager one, keep going back to the same town, either Fairhaven or St. Clair. They're both the same place. They're also the Good Place, if you ever watched that show. Yeah. So Ruth Answers is correct, and Far Beyond the Stars is correct. So
And the Sherlock
Ruth.
episode
Ruth Mazamonte.
where Moriarty becomes sentient. That's
I
got
don't think they shot that on the New York Shoots backlot. I don't believe, unless I'm wrong.
They did have a scene that was in meant to be
there was
in
some
London.
sort of streets.
That looked to be an indoor
Oh,
set.
okay.
It didn't look to be an outdoor
Okay.
set. But...
We'll throw it in. We'll throw it in. I stand corrected.
Oh, we'll throw it in there. We'll go with Tavi, Maz, Monty, and Ruth, shall we?
As we're not sure. We'll go with that.
Yeah, let's spin the wheel.
Tavi!
Tavi guns!
Oh,
Look!
it's effects. Right.
Tavi, you call it luck, but you obviously you've won more than you've lost. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Continue.
Act 3. So we're back in the rented apartment, and Geordie zaps the snake game with a tuned phaser, and it transforms into the how do you say it? Ophidian snake.
Ophidian.
That the Davidians use to create the gateway. They realise it's unstable, so the aliens must use the mind to stabilise it. They hear a knock at the door, and it's Mrs. Carmichael again, and they all pretend to be in the middle of an act of Midsummer Night's Dream. Mr. Picard pushes Mrs. Carmichael into reading Titania's part and declares that they have found their new Titania, and Mrs. Carmichael is thrilled to be a part of the play. Just throwing this here because I thought it was funny because without his visor, Geordie was holding the play upside
Nice direction.
Upside down.
So Troy just carefully corrects it. Data takes Picard back to awaiting Guinan in his hotel room, who says she's found access to the mine, but then stops short as she wonders who this other man is who's entered the room. Picard says he knows her very well.
If this is what started her fascination with big hats. Sorry, carry on.
Maybe. I like the fact that, she has got a big hat on her head, and it's kind of like her thing, isn't it? Yeah. Picard says she knows her very well, but that she doesn't know him yet, but she will. Sorry, go on, Tammy.
Could you hear me?
Yeah, go.
I was like,
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting in this scene because it was really hard to tell if she was looking at him as in, I know you or I feel something, but it also looked like she was going, hubba, hubba. So it's like, it was, to me, at least that's how it came off.
We know about Elorians that they can kind of detect fluctuations in time. So retcon, we can say that she understood he wasn't in the time space continuum he was supposed to be. You know, we can retcon it backwards, I think.
Oh, we just lost Ruth.
Fine.
I will say that I did feel that the messaging between the two of them is a little complex in this episode. It's like they don't really declare what their relationship is, but at times it's like it's very personal. How personal is
On
it?
Booby Trap, Guinan did tell LaForge that she was attracted to bald men because long ago one was very kind to her, but maybe she was already attracted to bald men before he was kind to her. Who knows?
Who knows? Okay, so outside the infirmary, Clemens questions the reporter about the incident and realizes that the carriage driver that whisked him away was indeed Mr. Data. He realizes that now there are more of them, and it's in fact an invasion. He gets into the carriage and tells the driver to take him to Presidio and don't spare the whip. In the mine, under Presidio, Geordie sees cracks in the wall with his visor and concludes that the entire cave has been configured. The entire cave has been configured to focus the space-time distortions like a lens, but is not sure they have enough power in their phasers to make the whole thing work.
Sorry, Ruth just said she's backstage. She wants to come back in.
Oh. Knock, knock. Who's there? It's Ruth.
Hello.
My lady.
The computer just shut down for no reason.
Oh.
Boo.
It means Commander Redvers has made up. He's gone up one
Step
in
up.
the
He's
wrong.
gone up one on the ladder.
Yeah. I can't have that. I've got to have Ruth. Look, there we
You've
go.
leveled up.
Better.
Hey.
Let's put
Hey.
him back where he belongs. Look, there we go. Yeah. Okay. So, they're in the mine, weren't they? They're not sure it's going to work. Okay. So, yes, Clemens arrives holding a Colt 45. He says he has plans to take them to the authorities, but Data tells him it's imperative that they finish their mission. He suspects even time travelers are vulnerable to a Colt 45. He looks in his pocket watch and tells him he doesn't want to be late. But then the video... Oh, crap. My thing went to the wrong browser. Hang on. But then the Davidians appear next to Troy and attempt to grab the staff from Data. But Data knocks the male to the ground and the cane explodes, blowing dead Data's head off and opens a portal. The male Davidian checks the female and then runs through it, followed by Riker, LaForge, Troy, and Crusher. Just as the portal begins to collapse, Clemens dives through, leaving Picard and Guinan alone in the cavern. And that is the end of Act 3.
Just
His
before you
head
move
pops
on,
right off like a champagne cork.
Wook rightly points out, previous image adjusted Trumbull type shot, like in Kid saying, low angle ceilings deliberately in shot. So yeah, you can clearly see where the cave's head stops as a straight line, and it's just the sound dampening material over. Yeah, that's an awful shot. I guess just did it for 3 or 4 frames and didn't think about the fact that 28 years later we'd still be looking at the same episode.
Yeah.
Question, Sean.
Question. Sorry. Yes. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. We're three. Which play does the troupe pretend to be rehearsing? Was it A. Merchant of Venice, B. Midsummer's Night Dream, C. Macbeth, or D. Merry Wives of Windsor? And for the bonus question, When boarding the carriage, what does Samuel Clemens ask the driver not to spare?
Poor horse, as Tavi says.
Yeah.
Poor horse. My phone's about to die, so
So-
I'm not going to be able to answer very much longer.
Yeah. Stu Plum's still with us, which is good. He said he might not last the duration, but we're going as quick as we can, Stu Plum.
We're doing well. We're doing very well.
Yeah,
It's
we
20
are.
past 10.
There's
Yeah,
a new
we're-
morphing effect used on the snake's head on the cane, which was supposed to clarify the effect previously seen in the other episode. Data.
Let's see.
Oh, has everybody answered? Most people have answered already, right?
Yeah.
Data plays a character called
There is.
Puck from something I won't mention. And in the Disney animated series Gargoyles, Brent Spiner plays a variation on the same sort of character. The majority of the Next Generation cast being roles in the same series, which we've mentioned before. After Data loses his head, his body becomes rigid, but his extended arm kind of shakes a bit, and the snake head wobbles again. And I think that's it for that act. Cool whip. Brilliant. Love
Cool
it.
whip.
Walnut
Why are you
whip.
saying it weird? I'm saying what weird?
Just looking at the picture that's on the screen, it reminds me of the fact that the alien casting is really good because that woman is really creepy.
She is. She's definitely, I would walk the other way if I saw her walking down the street. She definitely looks spooky.
I
She
wouldn't
is,
be
but
surprised if that's the actress that plays the nun.
she is, but the fact that you see a really straight line where the flats end, and you can see the
Oh my
you know
God, spooky.
the sound material above it, yeah, it doesn't hold up.
It's not sound material. It's wood. It's just
The wooden
I-
bridge thing.
Scaffolding.
think I think it's I think what this is, I think it's like a wooden like warehouse, and that's
Oh, I thought it was like mines and
I think
platforms in a mine.
that's the floor above, and what they've done is
Yeah.
they've built like paper mache rock walls
Pretty much, yeah.
around the bottom floor of this like wooden warehouse.
Yeah, they could have done a digital set extension or a map painting or something, but yeah, it's not obvious when you watch the episode, but when you look back and you see that screenshot, it's like, oh god, it's so awful.
I think it looked pretty good. I thought it looked good. Okay, so is there any more, Maz?
They are covered in bees.
We're covered in bees.
I'm covered in bees. Midsummer Night's Dream. She played Titania, and or Titania. I don't know how you pronounce it. And
Tanya.
Tanya.
Thank you. Glad I'm not.
I don't know how Shakespeare pronounced it, but that's.
Yeah,
Tanya.
I have British people to correct me, so fair play. And he says don't spare the whip, the whip,
1, 2,
or the
3,
whip,
4,
or the cool whip.
5,
Yeah.
6. Yeah, that's
What does
all
that
6 people for the
Does that mean
spin
Wookie going?
wheel.
So, oh, Wook's on there. Does that mean everybody loses?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody
If-
gets
if-
point,
Wookie
10
cancels
points
out.
if
Remember,
Wookie
he's
wins.
negative point.
Except Wookie.
Yeah.
If Wook wins, can we just agree he wins the season and what else happens?
Let's have a look. Who's gonna win?
Da-da-da-da-da.
Oh my gosh, it's heading towards him.
Oh!
Yay.
My name's Brooklyn.
I swear that wheel hates me.
It
That was
almost you, G, it
yeah,
was
lower
almost you.
chance than usual.
Yeah.
Lower probability there.
He just separately said cool whip so as not to get it correct. I know. I read your mind on that one. Okay, we're on
Nice.
to Act 4. Go on, G.
I was just going to say to Wookie's comment where he said, is it possible for a paper mache rock to become an actual rock with enough time and ideal conditions? And I was just thinking, well,
Yes.
yeah, I guess a lot of things can petrify and, just
Yes.
become something different.
Well,
So
if
it's
it's
a good
paper
point.
and
Sand
Side-sided.
matter, essentially, right?
It's paper,
So,
it's
yeah.
wood, it's carbon, isn't it, at the end of the day? So, yeah.
You probably have to have quite a bit of it and compress it, so it would need to be a fair amount of paper mache. But yeah, I reckon in theory.
Yeah, well, if something's dripping on it for 1,000 years with a little bit of calcium in every drop, yeah, eventually it'll turn into rock.
Okay, Act 4. So the Enterprise crew wakes up in the cave in the 24th century and finds that Clemens is with them. Oh no. Riker tells Worf that there are 5 to transport, but then they notice Data's body. So Riker corrects that to say actually make that 6 to transport. Or maybe 5.8. They arrive at the transporter room and Riker orders security to escort Mr. Clemens.
What I thought was a bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I know I'm on a delay. What I thought was weird in this scene is when they see Data's body. He knows that the cave. So did he intentionally go just bring the body back and leave the head?
Yeah.
I'm not too sure about that, but when you look at this picture, Tavi, doesn't it just make you want to give Data a head?
I mean, that's just a mannequin. Look at the hands.
The hands backwards.
Well,
I mean, don't you look at it and
I
go,
mean,
I want to give him a head.
I
I want
want
to
to sit on his head. I just want to sit on his
Yeah, Tabby thinks
Well-
that all of the time.
well, they already had the head on board because they beamed it up earlier.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
Yeah, and
An old
the head that popped off is still with Picard.
Hmm.
So it all works out in the end.
There was no head.
mm.
Yeah.
There was
But
no
that is
head.
definitely a mannequin.
Yes. I like the way
Something with his hand.
Clemens there was like curled up in like a almost standing fetal position as he beamed. He was like, "Oh no!" Yeah.
Yeah, people in chat are saying about hello, and if only Riker had done a really bad French accent.
Good
Moaning.
morning.
Just pissing by.
And Ash is shocked with your rudeness, G.
Yeah.
Like,
wasn't
did I get that
being
right
rude.
about giving head to Data?
I wasn't being rude. The guy's got no head in the picture.
Yeah.
We
He
deserve
needs
it.
some
Oh,
head.
my.
He needs to be given head. A
Yeah.
head. He needs to get a head.
Also, can I point out the great continuity when Samuel Clemens or Mark Twain he like was in horror, and then when he comes up in the transporter pod, he keeps the same pose. It's quite often they just forget about that and they make a real
Yeah.
shit of it,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
you know they did it properly on that occasion. So fair play.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. So yes, they've arrived in the transport room, and Riker orders security escort for Mr. Clemens. Worf enters, and Clemens looks shocked and claims a werewolf. And I thought when I first heard him say that, I had to rewind it. I thought he said, "Where's Worf?" And
Yeah.
he says werewolf.
It did sound a little bit like Where's Wolf?
Where's Wolf?
Oh,
Yeah. Where's Worf?
Werewolf.
Where's Wolf?
Geordie has Data's body taken to the lab to fit the old head on, and Troy offers to escort Clemens around to save Worf the obvious grief that it was going to cause if Worf had to do it. Clemens is delighted, and on exiting the transporter room, asks if they have ever visited Hades' Comet, to reference his life and Hades' Comet earlier in the episode. Back in the mine in 1893, Picard is helping Guinan come to after being knocked out. He tells her he had to make sure she was okay because she is too important to him. She's like, so we're
His
friends.
hand's a bit high there, isn't it?
He's copping some side boob action.
Yes,
my.
definitely.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least there's a lot of corset in between.
Get it?
Yeah.
God, you guys are so rude.
I know. So yeah, she's like, so we are friends then, are we? And but he tells her that their relationship
If
goes.
you're not, get your hands off my titties.
Well, he said they're more than friends, so
Our relationship goes
What's she gonna
far
expect from
beyond
that?
friendship.
Oh my.
Wink, wink.
Wait, nudge, nudge.
She realizes that when they do finally meet some 500 years' time, she won't be able to mention any of this. And he's like, no, that's because that'll be in my past. Then they spot Data's head. And Picard says that time is fulfilling itself. Then in 10 forward, Riker is quizzing Guinan on what happened next in the cavern, but Guinan refuses to talk about it. She doesn't want to affect anything that might happen, which is kind of weird because they're in the future now. But then they don't want to do anything that might affect 500 years ago.
Oh, don't get into a paradox.
Anyway, no, I'm
Yeah.
not.
She does the right thing. She has to just
Stay
wait
out
for
of
things
it.
to pan out so
Yeah.
that cause she knows Picard's going to be all right. And
But she did tell Picard that he has to go on the away mission because he wasn't going to go on the away mission. So she already did interject without being asked.
I think it's different though.
But then
I don't know, I can see it from her
but
point
then
of view.
she didn't because it was a predestination paradox. So he was always intended to go back. So
But did he only go back because she said so? Either way, the predestination still works because she did say so.
And did it only right itself because she was supposed to intervene there? We'll stop.
yeah, you just give me a headache.
Yeah.
Star Trek's version of time travel changes completely after this episode. It's the predestination paradox. When you go to the past, you change the future, and it's just not reflected in this episode.
She could have just gone, yeah, don't shoot any any photon torpedoes at the aliens yet.
Yeah, we have 15 or 20 episodes to get to the episode Parallels, where Riker comes back from a battle tournament and like a 10,000 Galaxy class Enterprises turn up, and we'll get into it more then.
That's Worf.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Worf. Sorry, I said Riker, Worf.
Troy is still showing Clemens around. He isn't impressed with the future, but Troy explains about the scientific exploration and how they've eliminated poverty. And Clemens says, as it does this little monologue saying, "Young lady, I come from a time where men achieve power and wealth by standing on the backs of the poor, where prejudice and intolerance are commonplace and power is an end to itself. You're telling me that this is now not anymore?" And Troy's like, "Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's how it is." And Clemens like, "Oh, right. Well, maybe it's worth giving up cigars after all."
They should never watch Star Trek. Like, there's loads of bad shit that happens all the
I
time.
know, all the time, especially now. It gets worse. This is the heyday. Enjoy it while you got it, guys. You know. In the lab, Geordie has plugged in Sparehead number 2, which looks a lot better
And
now.
this one, I gotta love the lighting. It looks like the Joker.
Yeah. It looks a lot better on him, doesn't it, than it did on the shelf, I have to say.
Sorry, Tammy, that was a Red Dwarf reference.
Clemens finds his watch on a nearby table, and Clemens tells Mr. Data he feels he sadly misjudged him, and touches his shoulder. Back in the mine, Picard's questioning the female Davidian. Picard tells them that they had to stop them because they were hunting humans, and it's just not right. Picard tells her that the Enterprise will destroy their transport site, but the Davidian tells him that this will only amplify the time distortion and annihilate Earth. She flickers blue light energy and then disappears. What are you saying?
Was that G?
G, what are you saying?
What?
You saying?
He's just making sound effects.
He whispered something, but I don't know what he said.
We need your energy.
We need your energy.
Oh, yeah.
Creepy little
He does
orifice
say
head looking
that.
motherfuckers. Yes, so there we go. Act 4 over and done with. Question time, Sean.
4. So, what creature does Clemens mistake for Worf? Was it A, Wile E. Coyote, B, werewolf, C, Rocky, and D, woolly mammoth?
I'm gonna have to
I
give.
didn't even get the question. Is I'm
gonna have to give you my answer, Sean, because my phone's died.
Ah.
Okay.
I could answer as the Vault.
I'm already filling in everybody's answers. So I'm
I'll
just assuming
answer, I
everybody's
have to answer as the Vault now. I'm the Vault.
That's okay.
The body will decay.
Wookie will
All
probably put
right,
Wookie.
and the bonus question: what item does Clemens pick up in the cybernetics lab that was in the cave for 500 years?
Sorry, say it again.
What item does Clemens, or Mark Twain, pick up in the cybernetics lab that was in the cave for 500 years?
Cool. I don't have much trivia and goofs for that section. We already mentioned about his interest in Halley's Comet because of his birth and death. He also pronounced it Halley's Comet, a common mistake. When Geordie's working to reactivate Data, who's supposed to be obviously completely static, there's a lot of wobbling about, but I mean, that happens, doesn't it? Yeah, so that was it really for that one. Not much at all. And I think most people have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, everybody's answered both questions.
Hey. Ash quotes Red Dwarf.
G-Star, you want to talk? Did you put your hand up?
I've been to a parallel universe. I've seen time running backwards. I've played pool with planets. I've given birth to twins. But I never thought in my entire life I'd taste an edible pot noodle. Lister. I don't know. I'm quite partial to a Bombay bad boy.
That was a Red Dwarf reference.
Yeah.
I used to
you
love
only
the
get a tick
chicken and
once,
mushroom ones.
John.
Oh, chicken mushroom. Yeah.
But then they made them like, low sodium and all that kind of stuff. I used to love them about 15 years ago, but they're rubbish now.
What I do is I get
So many
Bisto
noodles
gravy
to get.
granules, like chicken gravy granules, and put a couple of teaspoons of chicken gravy granules in it.
Yeah, and chuck a load of soy sauce in,
Soy
and like all
sauce,
sorts
bit
of
of soy
things to actually
sauce.
make it taste like it
Yeah.
should now.
That's right, yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Sorry, was there anything else for this
Answers, Sean?
answers?
Covered in beans?
What does Clemens mistake for a werewolf? And what does Clemens pick up in the cybernetics lab? It was his pocket watch.
Pocket watch.
There's 2 his watch and 4 pocket watch. I take it they're all okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
It has to be
6
pocket
names
watch.
on the
6.
spinny wheel, Monty
Has to
Man.
be pocket watch.
But it was
6
his
names.
pocket watch.
No works.
It's not a watch. It's a pocket watch.
I'm
It's his.
Whatever.
What?
It was a watch. It was his
spin
watch.
wheel. Spin the wheel, spin the wheel.
Come on, G. Come on, G.
Oh.
Come on, G.
Oh! Fix.
Yay.
Well
Nice.
done,
What do I
G.
win?
Well done,
What do I get?
G. You get
You
TNG
get an extra 10 points.
You get
10
TNG
points.
points.
10?
Yeah, that's what you
What,
get.
what happened to the days of throwing out 100 or 1,000?
Those days are gone. Those days are gone.
Those days
Random choose your own points
Yeah.
days.
It
have
was
to
so
win- we'll
much
have to
more
win bingo.
generous when I was doing it.
Yeah, it was a lot more random when Monty Bam was doing it.
We had more points to give away back then. We're running thin now. Austerity and climate. It's just
Yeah.
Just
Brexit,
don't
inflation.
everything, yeah.
we just don't have the points available anymore. That's the way
There
it
is
goes.
bingo club, so you can get points on. Well, didn't you say, Tabby, we're getting points on bingo this season?
Yeah, if you can get an extra line on your bingo
If
card,
anybody
you can
gets a line,
get 10 points.
ever.
Has anyone got one?
Tabby needs to come up with a scoring system. If you get the corners, if you get a full board.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
checking.
Oh,
I'm
boy,
checking
my
all the
gosh.
cards now,
Just checking.
and there are 3 of you that are
Oh,
so close.
Oh, no lines yet. 3 are close.
Yeah. I'm 1 away in a couple of areas, but keep going.
Oh, all right.
Come on, Sean.
Can you
Get
give me
your-
one of the one away that I?
Can
you
I
might
give
be
it-
away?
No, that would be cheating.
No.
No.
it's too easy, Sean. That's the problem. If you could do it really subtly, but
Could
We're
I
not
mention
letting you
Dr.
ramble as much as normal this week, so we're getting less on the bingo.
Well, it's a double episode, so I'm trying to shut up. I mean, can I put on a yellow uniform? Can I mention
You
Doctor
are?
That would
Who? I don't know. Battlestar Galactica?
Yeah, you can
I
change
don't
through all your uniforms.
know.
Okay. Act
Back in a
5.
minute.
what did you say about Doctor Who?
Oh, dear.
Right. Actually, funny about that, this episode does give me Doctor Who vibes. Because it's like time travel and they're going back to like Victorian times and there's like these aliens sucking the life energy out of people. It is very Doctor Who-y.
Yeah.
It is very Doctor Who-y, this episode. Of all of TNG episodes, I think this one's probably the most Doctor Who-y of them.
Oh no, I don't think so. I think Toys is the most Doctor Who-y.
Oh, yeah, there.
And of course, you have this entire conversation while Sean is away.
That's true. Yeah. No, you've got a good point there. It's still pretty Doctor Who-y, though. Timey-wimey and all that.
Timey-wimey and, you know, bluey-pooey.
Bluey, alien-y. And, okay, right. Act 5, then. In the observation lounge, Riker is angry and announces he's going back for Picard. Worf disagrees, though, and thinks they should just destroy the aliens immediately with all their photon torpedoes. And this time, everyone agrees with Worf. So Riker orders Worf to power up the photons.
There's no Sean White.
As soon
Sorry, my
as there's a situation in which you agree with Worf, that's when you need to go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, two things. My color settings are off. Also, I heard you because I was on Bluetooth. And yeah, nobody ever agrees with Worf when he says fire the photons.
So this time they all said, yeah, okay, let's do that.
Yeah, but this is Chief Yellow. I've done it. Mark it off on the bingo board.
It looks white.
Yeah, it's because
it looks like you're wearing a bandage.
Your face has gone a little data as well, to be honest.
Yeah, it's because the color settings that I have is set for the uniform that I'm wearing, not for the one that I just put on. So
I love the fact you actually changed the color settings on your camera specifically for your uniform.
Yeah, the chroma key. I have to keep changing it depending on what I'm wearing.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay.
Anyway, you have a Chief Yellow, so we move on.
Okay, well, you've achieved that goal. Well done. In the lab, the computer finds an intermittent contact in Data's input polarizers. He checks it out and finds some ironing filings. Well done, Geordie. Back in 1893, Picard picks up Data's head and taps out a message in binary into Data's static memory using, guess what? An iron filing.
Wow.
Just go back to that shot. Previous shot.
What?
Yeah, that's a straight up Data flashlight right there. Look at that. He's having a hell of a lot of fun. He's just like,
God.
Oh, no.
Oh my.
So, yes, back in the lab, Geordie turns Data on.
It looks like the Joker again when he's got the green lights coming down.
Sorry, Geordie does what to Data?
Geordie's turning Data on. Yeah. And Data jumps to attention and grabs instinctively grabs the poles in front of him. And he's awake. He braces himself. He's just bracing himself. I don't know why.
prepare your anus.
Well,
he just does. He jabs him in the back. He quivers a bit and braces himself on the poles. That's what happens. It's in the episode. Don't know.
I think we got Commander Redford as his corpsing over there.
Yeah.
Back.
oh God.
Geordie coming in hot.
But the smile on his face
I'm
doesn't
coming
help
in.
either. That
I'm
like
coming in. Oh,
smile.
his face looks pretty serious though. Data processes the message and instructs them to hold their fire. Don't shoot your load yet. Hang on to it. So what happens? Data explains they must adapt their weapons to the correct phase variance to stop the feedback loop. Of course you do. It's, obvious. Riker decides he's going to use that time to go back and get Picard. However, the doc says that now you can only send one person back and only one person can return. So Clemens volunteers to go back to his own time, and besides, he's got more books to write and he doesn't belong here, and he thanks Data for opening his eyes and seeing the future is bright after all. Back in 1893, Clemens arrives in the cave and gives Picard the staff, and turns out it put him down a little way away in Market Street, so it's taken him a while to get there. So back on the bridge, they've got bored waiting, so they decide to start the firing sequence and blow the aliens to Kingdom Come.
Again, and
For
some reason, it's just taking ages to set up phases and things. Like normally, it's just one button and you're done. But we'll warm them up, get them ready. Everything's just
slow, isn't it?
taking too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we saw Crusher use the tactical console. So he absolutely beat Worf's arse. With the benefit of hindsight, he was shit at his job.
Yeah. Back in the cave, Picard asks Clemens to look after Guinan and pay Mrs. Carmichael the money they owe, and Clemens agrees. Guinan says, "See you in 500 years," and Picard says, "See you in a couple of minutes." Back on the bridge, Riker gives the order to fire. Fire! And then we see a good shot of the Enterprise firing a whole volley of torpedoes. And Data picks up a temporal distortion on the planet below and human life signs. Riker orders O'Brien to get them out of there, and Picard comes over comms to say that he is okay. And of course we got Riker doing his Riker maneuver.
Why were they so quick to shoot it up when they were supposed to be waiting for Picard to get back?
I don't know. There was some like the aliens knew what they were doing, and there was some like temporal distortion taking place. So before like they escaped or something through temporal holes, they decided they had to act.
Yeah, as best I understand it, there's a temporal nexus. So the time in 500 years in the past and the time of now are in sync. So 5 minutes moves on in their time, 5 minutes moves on in our time. And the more time went on, the more damage they did. So they kind of need to knock them out of the system. That's my understanding.
Yeah. So later, Picard goes to Guinan in 10 forward to reminisce. They don't actually say anything. They just kind of look at each other knowingly. And Data's back to his old self. And in the cave, Clemens leaves his trusty watch behind to be found by the people of the future. And here he is, leaving his watch on the side. Oh, and of course, they leave the Data's head on the floor as well. And that's how the episode ends. Done.
Amazing.
Question time?
Yeah, that's a good point about his head. He basically walks around with a 500-year-old head from here on out, and there are never any supposed issues from that, even though earlier they talked about like a 12% degradation in something or another, but it's never referred to again.
No, he says about it, the decomposition of the head shows it's like 500 years. Like, well, you're now wearing a decomposed head. Seems fine though.
Frankenstein.
Doesn't seem to affect him.
So the questions. What is the first word Data says after reactivating? A, Geordie. B, phasing. C, alien. D, torpedoes. And the bonus question: what setting in the phaser did Clemens tell Picard to use?
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the phaser setting, I will forgive a few decimal points. I'll tell you that.
I'm gonna.
No, make them get it exact.
Nearest integer are we going here, or?
Whatever you think. Right, I got a whole bunch of stuff that I'm going to just rattle through.
Go for it.
I think you kind of mentioned this actually in the last act, Monty Bam, but Picard decides to use Data's head to send a message. It would have been easier to just tell Guinan to tell them. Bearing in mind that Data's head was in a state of decay, they didn't know for sure if Geordi was going to be able to reattach it, or even that they would interpret the message correctly. Guinan would have been a much better choice all around. Oh, yeah. And although the message is really critical, once Data wakes up, he stops to go and change from his 19th century clothing into his Starfleet uniform before kind of going to the bridge and telling everybody else about the message. It doesn't seem as urgent as it should be. Oh, yeah. Crusher says that the cane can only have one person go through the portal, which seems a bit odd, seeing as like 5 of them just stepped through it a moment ago. Like what? There's no rhyme or reason given for that. Character Samuel Clements says, "I have all these books to write, whatever they are." And after that, and in Time After Time, another time travel movie, the character representing H.G. Wells says the same thing. However, it is correct that there's a number of books that were written. Wrote 7 more books after 1893, the last one being The Mysterious Stranger, which was published posthumously in 1916. I'm not going to say that because it relates to the answer.
Is that the story?
Sorry?
Is that when he wrote this story?
Oh, maybe it was. It would be great, wouldn't it? When they all go through the original time portal, they're only carrying tricorders, but then there are multiple times when they seem to have phasers on them. But Data's phaser got dismantled. So how did Picard have one, and how did they have one to shoot the people in the hospital if they only had tricorders? You can see that the paper mache rocks kind of move as people brace themselves against them. So a little bit of a set error. Bloody blah. Cole Meany isn't in this episode, but he does play an important role because towards the end, Riker addresses O'Brien and tells him to transport the captain up from the planet.
I guess it's because they want to think that O'Brien's still there, because we've got to say a full goodbye to him shortly. So, look, remember O'Brien is still here. He's actually filming on the set, filming like the beginning of Deep Space Nine at the moment, so he can't actually be here. But remember O'Brien? He's still a thing.
He still stands in this one transporter room.
He's still in transport
room
3.
alone.
Yeah.
And I think that was about it, but there was an observation that Samuel Clements only played the part of Mark Twain when on stage, not or in a public performance. If ever he was like on his own in an elevator, just in a room, he would have been himself, not Mark Twain. But I don't know for sure, what the distinction is between the two personalities or characters. But certainly when he's talking to the reporter who refers to him as Mr. Twain, he says, "No, I'm Samuel Clements." So that kind of tracks.
Yeah, it's just pen name.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, answers to the question.
All right.
We have these torpedoes.
Yeah, I'm covering D's all over my face. Torpedoes is the correct answer. And the setting was 0.47. So, yeah. Any sort of 47 is fine. That'll do you. So Stu and Mazza both have 47. You say 44.
Oh, sorry, that's a typo. I meant to put 047.
All right.
Okay. The 4 is
Stuart's inquiry will.
I clearly don't understand phaser setting.
I put 0.04. I missed off the 7 on the end. There's supposed to be a 7 on the end.
You did say you'd allow hundreds of.
Well, you're the arbiter, so you make a decision. Are you in or are you out?
So
you're in, Monty.
Right, let's just
Yeah,
spin
You're
the
clearly
wheel.
close. I've put 5 because I thought the only settings were stun, kill, and disintegrate.
I believe there's
Maximum
16
settings.
settings on the,
No,
the kind of
there's also,
Voyager ones.
there's also there's also warm up equipment. They use to heat up things.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
To be
So it's
honest,
everybody but Ruth, right?
No, I'm including Ruth as well because
No, don't include me. I put 5.
0.47 is kind of close to 5. So
Yeah.
Setting 5.
it's closer to 5 than 0.44 is, isn't it? So
Yeah.
Well, it's not because it's
Yeah.
No, it's
4.5
really not.
away.
yeah,
By a long
okay.
way.
I don't care. I'm including
Sheepdog
Ruth
rule.
anyway.
It's the sheepdog rule. You rounded them up. It's fine.
Debbie!
Debbie!
Barely
Hey.
even from then. That was the lazy wheel. It barely went 360.
Oh, you just weren't watching. You weren't watching. Start thinking about what you give part 2 of Time's Arrow out of 10. Put it into the live chat. We want to know your opinions. G, put it in chat.
Is it going to take you ages to set up a new spreadsheet?
Oh, Shazbat.
Maybe we just note down the scores and then we'll present a new spreadsheet
Just
next
bolt it
time.
on to the end of 4 for the minute. And then port it from 4 over to 5 before next week.
Crikey. That's a...
If season 5 is starting next week.
Oh, yeah.
I believe so. That's a good question.
I have my paddle.
Oh, good. Yeah, put your scores in chat. Anybody want to just talk about, your thoughts of the episode while Monty Ban is sorting himself out?
Well, what I did want to say is because, one of the main reasons I came along was to beat up anybody who didn't give last week's episode 10. So here's it that I've got to beat up.
Everybody.
That was Matt. No, most of us. No, Mazza, you gave it a 9. Most of us. Gave it a 10. Inner
sorry,
Light.
Inner Light. Right.
I gave it a 10.
Monty Ban tried to fool G-Star, but he wasn't there to take.
I was
To take the
already...
Oh, no, I overheard it at the very end of the show.
I was all ready to be a contrarian, to be like Dan the contrarian, and be all like, oh god, this is the most boring episode in the whole of TNG, and like, there's not even any fights or there's no phaser fire. Oh god, it's just yawn fest, and you weren't even here to like, to enjoy my. So yeah, disappointing I was. But right, I've got a spreadsheet, believe it or not. And we are Time's Arrow, aren't we?
Part 2.
Part 2.
But no,
Got
I
Chief
did
Wins
give it a
to add
10.
in.
I did give it a 10 because it is a fantastic episode. I love that episode.
I can't believe Mazza gave it a 9.
9's really good score, though.
Is it?
I mean, what did Sean give it? Because Sean's been a bit like you this season.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
a bit
Sean
like me?
doesn't do more than a 7.
8. Sean gave it an 8.
Oh.
Get off the show! Hey, what are you doing here?
That is a very high score for Sean.
If you look all the way through my record the whole season,
That's the
that's
best.
the joint highest, third joint highest with Cause and Effect and Redemption Part 2. So yeah, high praise indeed. I didn't score anyone higher.
Okay.
You also
It's
said this was
something.
the best
Just
season.
remember,
the
10's
best
there for a
season of
reason.
Does anything
TNG.
get 10? All good things. Does all good things get a 10?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, of course
We'll
it
look
does.
forward to that then.
Okay, that's the show over. Fast forward to the end.
Spoiler alert.
Let's get on to
Point.
all good things,
Liam
shall we?
gets a
Quickly.
10. Okay.
Yeah, we
Tabikins,
still
you
have a-
mentioned about the bingo wins. Does that translate to any points before I
We need to agree that.
give it out?
bingo wings.
We could put 10 per win, so Maz gets 20.
It's up to Tavykins. Is that what you want to do?
I didn't know. Does that
Shouting.
offset too much, or should it be 5 points?
It's up to you, sweetie. Whatever you like. You're the bingo meister.
It's
You
your
do it
bingo.
5.
Whilst you're working it out, Wookie wants to know how flexible
I'm
is
going to go
Data's
for 5
skin?
points.
Okay.
Can you
that's
shove a
fine.
large eggplant in there? That's what he wants to know.
Into Data's skin.
I would have thought so. I would have thought it's fairly durable.
Well, Tavi, I'm no bigger expert, but maybe you can have 5 points for the corners, 10 points for a diagonal line, and 20 for a full board.
I'd say let's just make
you
this
might-
simple for the first one.
Yeah,
and
I
then we can
think
make it
you're adding
complicated later.
too much complexity there.
Oh, fair enough.
I need to
All right,
grab a
are we
drink.
ready? Are we good to go?
I believe so. Okay, so the bingo didn't make any difference to the runnings. In first place is Tavykins with 445 TNG review points, so 10 points on the scoreboard. In second place is Stu Plum with 430, so 9 points on the scoreboard.
Hang on, I haven't started putting them. 9 points for Stu Plum. Who came first?
Tavy, 10 points for Tavy.
10 points for Tabby.
In third place is Monteban with 420 points, so you've got 8 on the
8
scoreboard.
for me.
Only 5 points behind him is Ruth with 7 points on the scoreboard.
7,
15 points behind Ruth is myself with 6 points on the scoreboard.
6,
30 points behind myself is G Star with 5 points on the scoreboard.
5.
And being that Gujong got a bingo shout from Tabby, that gives him 5 points, therefore he gets 4 on the scoreboard.
4. Andrew didn't manage to stay for part 2.
Hey,
No, he didn't. He must have
it
clocked
seems
off
like playing
early.
bingo can't be giving.
Right.
And Stupla made it all the way to the end. Well done, you. I
Well
know you didn't think you were
done.
going to.
No, he done very well. There we go. So, for the first time, that puts me in the top 3. Crazy.
Long may it last.
I've never been in the top 3 before. It's a new experience. It's a brand new
Aw.
world. A brand new world. Okay. Has everybody got their scores for the episode on their paddles or for Ruth in
Yes.
chat?
I do.
Yes.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Dong.
87677. Yeah, it's pretty equal.
Obviously, mine just goes to the audience or with the audience.
Yeah.
Yes, yours was 7, was it?
No, mine was 6.
Yours was 6.
That's funny that because yeah, so you all thought this was better than the part 1.
Yeah, I thought you might find that weird, actually.
A consistent 9.
I know that the writers said they had such trouble with it, but I quite enjoyed it, to be honest.
See, I thought part 1 was better than part 2. But I just thought
Won 2 Emmys for outstanding hairstyling and costume design. One of only 4 episodes in Star Trek that have won this many Emmys. Michael Piller was pleased with the conclusion. Marina Sirtis enjoyed all the period settings and costumes. Ronald D. Moore regretted there wasn't more done in the 1890s period, but they couldn't because of budget and time and such like.
it just seemed to me that they had all the time and budget in the first episode to do all the really good on location filming, and it looked really good, the whole time travel bit. The sets looked good, and I just felt in this episode it just felt that the time bits felt really rushed, and the scenario ending it just seemed cobbled together with gobbledygook just to make it end well, like the send one person back and only one person can come back, just to get Clements back there. How do we send him back? I know. We'll just come up with some reason why we can't send more than one, then we have to send him back.
Yeah. Do you remember when you were in school and they said you need to write a 3-page story, and at the end of it, it needs to end, and you get 2.5 pages and you go, and suddenly it all solves itself, and therefore it's over. Yeah, and you just go, oh, I've hit my page limit, so I'm just finish the story in 2 lines, despite the fact it makes no sense. Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, I just felt, and it was marginal, but I felt the first part was more polished and better thought out than the second part.
Yeah.
In a sort of basic way to review it, if I'm doing my usual binging through all of Star Trek Next Generation, I get to number 1 of Time Tower and I'm like, oh yeah, this is all right, this one, I like it. And then very rarely bother to watch part 2 because it's like it sets the tone really well, sets the mystery. But then part 2 is kind of like
it's the whole story though. One doesn't work without 2.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so, because they were.
It's going to end.
That was the idea, wasn't it? But if we're scoring the separate episodes, I definitely have to agree with Monty. And episode 1 definitely sets the stage for the mystery and the potential of the story, and then part 2 just doesn't realise all the best possibilities.
Now I find I'm agreeing with G-Star. We're both agreeing with each other. I feel I must be wrong.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with the world now.
It's time to leave. Check, please.
The audience average, by the way, is 8.
8. So that gives this episode an average of 7.4 to start the season.
It's a strong start.
It is a strong start,
Very
isn't
strong.
it? I mean, that's higher than Time's Arrow and puts it on a par with like the Next Phase and it puts it as one of the highest episodes of season 5, to be honest. Oh yeah. Oh.
Interestingly, on IMDb, Time's Arrow gets 8.3 out of 10 and Time's Arrow Part 2 gets 8.2. So they're pretty similar, but Part 2 is just marginally less.
Well, you can't have one without the other, can you?
No.
In the words of Ruth.
In the words of Ruth. In the great words of Ensign Bryce.
That will go down in history, those words.
Yeah.
The graph doesn't look particularly impressive, does it? There it is. We have it. It's on there. So there we go.
And next week? We're on next week?
Roll on next week.
Realm of Fear. Barclay must overcome
Barclay
fear of the transporter to solve a mystery. So he's still like he gets in the transporter. He sees his mouth coming to him. And
good episode. Yeah. Good episode.
Yeah.
It should be good.
Yeah.
Clever storytelling.
As a person who suffers with anxiety and general fears, the fact that 30 years ago they were addressing this shit, I love it. I really love it.
Yeah.
Good.
Pretty cool. Well, it's late. Whoever's still watching, thank you very much for joining us on this 3-hour marathon through Time's Arrow Part 1s and 2s. We will join you next week to explore some of Barclay's real neuroses this time, not imaginary ones.
Absolutely.
And thank you, G-Star, for coming on. We really didn't expect to see you this evening, so thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Ruth?
Yeah, well, I got on when I could.
You could, yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, stay strong. Best of luck to your other half.
Home.
He's just out of hospital now. So that's
I'm glad to hear it.
Yes,
I'm sorry. Yeah. I said your other half, I mean your better half.
Yeah.
That's true.
That is true.
Shut up.
It's funny because it's true. Yeah. And thank you, Ruth, for coming on and joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Ash, thanks for coming on and representing the Canadian contingent. And much love to Panko.
Panko.
And yeah, see us again next Wednesday at 8 o'clock for the continuation of season 6 of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, and thank you, Wookie, as well. Right. Bye.